Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good to see you. Good morning. Chris Kaba's violent past will be revealed today.
It can now be reported that Kaba was a member of the notorious 6-7 gang that wreaked havoc on our capital.
Firearms officer Martyn Blake may have been found not guilty of Kaba's murder, but he could still face gross misconduct charges.
With just days to go until the US election, Donald Trump lashes out at the UK's Labour Party, accusing them of interfering with Kamala Harris's campaign.
A new review of water companies promises the biggest shake-up in history, but bills set to soar by more than £100. Is the government too slow to act?
A GB News exclusive reveals civil servants blocked secret plans for a Rwanda-style deportation deal with Uganda over human rights concerns.
A group of faith schools clubbed together to resist the government's decision to strip private schools of charitable status. Could this put a spanner in the government's plans?
The King and Queen land in Samoa as the second leg of their historic royal tour gets underway.
Racing legend Michael Schumacher's daughter gets backlash for taking her husband's surname. That's something we'll be debating on the programme today. This morning, we're asking whether wives should take their husbands' names.
Cycling Olympic champion Katie Archibald joins us after claiming gold at the World Championships last week. And also in the sport, out 36 teams in the competition. Aston Villa are top of the Champions League after beating Bologna 2-0 as Arsenal beat Shakhtar Donetsk. It's Manchester City, Liverpool and Celtic's turn tonight. And the Commonwealth Games are scaled down, but what's in and what's out?
A foggy start for many of us this morning, but brighter skies are on their way, at least for a short period. Full forecast coming up soon.
Hello, very good morning to you this Wednesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Do you two talk to your plants?
I'll talk to anybody and anything, including you, Paul.
I know, yeah.
I would do
Probably
that.
get more sense from a plant back there, don't you, really, to be honest with you.
I think if it gives you some sense of satisfaction or comfort, then why not? Does it matter if it's a plant or it's a car?
Well, apparently...
I can talk to my car.
Yeah, but...
A plant is alive, though.
Yeah.
I mean, a car, to be fair.
Yeah.
So... I think my mum does.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, you're looking nice today. You're looking...
Lots of people do talk to their plants. King Charles talks to his plants.
Yes, yeah.
And apparently it's the vibrations. They pick up off the vibrations of your voice, and that's what helps them to grow.
My dad had a van that vibrated quite a lot.
Oh, really?
And the van had a name. The van was female.
Right.
And he called it Shirley.
Oh, really?
But we always said, Shirley's acting up today, or Shirley's doing this.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but he said Shirley was like a thing to us.
Oh, that's nice. You talk away to Shirley.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite nice.
Shirley would bring us on our holidays.
Oh,
well, apparently things have got very modern now. So there's an AI tool that helps the plants speak back to you.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, so you talk to your plants and you can just say, how are you feeling this morning? Do you need some water? And then the plant, an AI app on your phone, can say, actually, they need some water this morning. I'm feeling a bit crispy this morning. Exactly.
Hold on.
So it's going to be a two-way conversation.
So do you show I don't know, does the app know anything about the plant, or does it just...
I think you probably share a photo. I think they check the weather forecast and then they say yes or no to watering.
Go you off and talk to a few out there.
I'm interested, Eamonn. I was just wondering what was going on.
There you go. It's going to be a two-way conversation.
I think there are worse things you could be doing.
Absolutely.
Imagine if there's a dog one. And Maggie could speak back to you.
Well, I do believe that you can talk to dogs and they talk back. We just haven't...
I agree.
We just haven't got the language right yet, but I believe there is an understanding.
They're talking back.
I say to Dudley, are you OK? And everybody laughs and he goes, and I go, and he's going, yes, I'm sure he is.
OK.
Positive.
Let's get on to the news. Let's talk about that. The Home Secretary is under pressure to intervene as the police officer who shot this guy, Chris Kaba, faces the sack despite being cleared by a jury.
Well, the lifting of reporting restrictions means it can now be revealed that Chris Kaba was a key figure in one of London's most dangerous gangs called the 6-7. He was accused of being involved in 2 shootings just days before the police officer, Martyn Blake, shot him dead in September 2022.
Well, the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, has admitted the system is broken. Reform is needed.
No police officer is above the law, but we have been clear that the system holding police to account is broken. The more we crush the spirit of good officers, the less they can fight crime.
Well, joining us in the studio to talk through this and more, former advisor to Boris Johnson, we say good morning to Oscar Redrop. Hi, Oscar.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
Oscar, I look at all this and I'm glad this information has been released. I don't know why it wasn't released before now. But, this guy's family go about treating him like some sort of saint and whatever. And we see a whole different side to Kaba here. But my point is, why would I want to be a firearms officer? Because it's just a no-win situation. Because when you do defend people, when you do use your firearms, you are the one who is branded a criminal. You are the one who is in big trouble.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility, and it's fun. It's very, very interesting because in the last, I think, 24 hours or so, former colleagues or former firearm officers have come out and said that this will create real shockwaves, this experience and this trial and this incident, because there is so much responsibility involved. And to use their phrase, not mine, but at that point of contact, split decision contact, you want police officers to feel that they can absolutely make the decision that will ensure not only their own the safety of their own officers and their peers and colleagues, but crucially the general public.
Yeah.
And if there's always...
Look at the video footage that was released yesterday about this guy Kaba going into that nightclub, drawing a pistol and shooting this guy and then pursuing him across the street and whatever.
I know, and I completely get your frustration about why this hasn't come out now. That was absolutely, I think, for legal reasons. But it's interesting because I've been watching some stuff on this. I even asked a few kind of friends of mine who are journalists, and, you know, the kind of crime journalists, like really in the know, knew this stuff about Chris for a very long time. And not only is he part of this, you know, very, very violent gang, but he was kind of, he was deemed, in inverted commas, one of the main hitmen within that gang.
You know, Oscar, not the way it was portrayed in the papers and not the way it's portrayed. His family's given a lot of airtime to show how this gross injustice was carried out and how awful this is and whatever. And the photographs used in all the newspapers of this smiling, lovely, really friendly-looking guy, and he was anything but.
Well, it's often the way. It's often the way, and these things do become PR campaigns, you know, on each side that kind of get out of control, and we lose the focus of the real issue. The one thing I would say, just a tiny, tiny bit of nuance, is that, you know, bad people, when they die, they still leave people behind who love them, who, you know, maybe didn't see that side of them, and so I do get a little bit wary of attacking those around him who obviously cared for him. But in terms of Blake,
I don't. Because they get the publicity, they get the sympathy, they get everybody thinking, oh yeah, it was awful, this is terrible.
Well, that
actually, most people don't care less what would happen to someone like Kaba.
Well, that needs to transfer now because, and I think Chris Philp said it. I think Rob Jenrick has said it. You know, the fact that this guy could get done for gross misconduct now. You know, I think Martyn Blake has probably had a scarring experience. Yeah. And I think it should be wrapped up as quickly as possible. And
well, it's going to be wrapped up that this guy will be retired from the force. What point does that serve? I mean, we've never been in more dangerous times where we need armed officers who will pull that trigger because other people are pulling the triggers elsewhere around the world. And you come up to Christmas, and we've seen in the past all these attacks on Christmas festivals and Christmas markets around Europe. And you think, well, who would become a firearms officer? That's the debate. We want to know what you think on this today. You have your say.
We're almost out of time with you. Can I ask you about Donald Trump filing this complaint against the UK's Labour Party? Tell us a bit more about this.
I think it's quite odd. I think it's around 100 or so Labour activists and members have gone over to the States to actively campaign for the Harris campaign. There was a post on LinkedIn about it that suddenly went missing. I think it is odd. And the thing is, like, you are absolutely playing in someone like Donald Trump's hands. You know, like him or loathe him. You know, he is front foot, attack, any whiff of anything as he would deem it untoward. He is going to exploit. And I think it is slightly embarrassing. You know, and to be really frank, if the Harris campaign thinks some nerdy Labour campaigners from the UK knocking on doors are going to swing voters in swing states, that's probably not the right way to go about it.
I mean, remember when Obama, it was after Brexit, saying we'd be in the back of the queue? I mean, people just don't like foreign players coming in and having commentary on what's going on in your country.
Absolutely right. And I just think there's a slight difference here between an MP going over and showing support for either the Democrats or, you know, doing a talk for the Republicans than kind of on-the-ground, operational, organised members of the Labour Party. But, hey, I mean, you know, turn the page, that campaign slogan that we had here in the UK and over in the US, the teams are very aligned. So in some ways, not a huge surprise. It'll be interesting to see how this escalates because, as we all know, Trump gets hold of something, gets the bit between his teeth, does not let go.
No.
Oscar, stay with us. We'll see you again after 7 o'clock. Have your say about what Oscar has had to say. A private school, which happens to be Christian, is urging the government to offer exemptions to religious schools like theirs in its plan to tax school fees.
Well, our East Midlands reporter Will Hollis has the story.
He tore through the house.
Christian classrooms come at a cost. At Emmanuel's school in Derby, parents pay £4,000 a year. Soon it will be more. The government plans to tax private school fees. Head teacher Ben Snowden says that discriminates against religious schools.
We believe that this is denying parents the choice to send their children to an independent school that aligns with their faith.
Brits pay VAT on almost everything, a 20% tax on goods and services, except for private school fees. Ben thinks religious schools, which he says are low fee, should be exempt.
Parents who are choosing to send their children to a faith school like ours aren't choosing it because they've got lots of money and they want to spend it on their children's education. If schools like ours end up closing, then parents won't have that choice.
The Institute for Fiscal Studies estimates the Labour policy could raise £1.5 billion.
I think there wouldn't be a difference to pay an extra 20% or 15%.
I think they're very unfair on people who work hard to give the children a better start in life.
I think they should, because then it benefits the children and the parents that can't quite afford that education.
3 schools, including Emmanuel in Derby, are taking the government to court.
The faith schools claim that the policy will be oppressive and could be devastating to some in the private sector.
The campaign group Christian Concern believes the tax is illegal. Steve Bigu is head of education.
It's a courageous decision that they've made to do this. There's actually something that's occurring which could be seen as breaking the international law, human rights law. Parents should not be disrespected in their efforts to be able to have their children taught in ways that conform to their religious and philosophical viewpoints.
A Treasury spokesperson said, "We want to ensure all children have the best chance in life to succeed. Ending tax breaks on private schools will help to raise the revenue needed to fund our education priorities for next year, such as recruiting 6,500 new teachers. The tax sets in on January 1st. Will Hollis, GB News in Derby.
What do you think? Your views very welcome. Have your say.
Now, 14 minutes past 6, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. German planes are set to operate from a base off the coast of Scotland from next year. It's part of a landmark agreement due to be signed today by Defence Secretary John Healey and his German counterpart. The submarine hunting planes will track Russian boats in response to the growing threat from Moscow.
The government has announced the biggest review of the water sector in 35 years. Under new plans, an independent body will examine industry regulation and suggest reforms to clean up the country's waterways.
A GB News exclusive has revealed civil servants blocked a Rwanda-style deportation deal with Uganda. It was over human rights concerns, including their track record on LGBT issues. Home Office officials were allegedly interested in striking a pact with the African nation soon after the Rwanda plan was first announced, but a group of civil servants banded together to stop it going any further.
And Barack Obama has been busy on the Democrat campaign trail, joining Vice Presidential candidate Tim Walz at rallies, the key swing states of Wisconsin and Michigan. The former president could be seen mocking Donald Trump's dancing at a town hall before joking it looked like a hostage video.
Now let's take a look at the weather with Aidan McGibbon.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Foggy start for some of us, particularly in the southeast, but the fog will be replaced by sunny spells as we go through the day. Odd shower possible, those showers already affecting the south of England. And the fog, extensive across Lincolnshire, East Anglia and the southeast, will tend to lift by about 10 or 11 a.m. to sunny spells. And it's a fine day for many places, sunny spells. And For much of the country, it's dry, but we do have those showers moving north across the southern half of the UK. 16 or 17 Celsius in the sunshine in the south, 14 or 15 further north, turning increasingly cloudy across northern and western Scotland and Northern Ireland as the day progresses. A few light showers in the far northwest, the breeze picking up as well. But it's a largely fair end to the day across Scotland, even if increasingly cloudy. Likewise for Northern Ireland, the cloud thickening, 13 Celsius as the sun goes down. Best of any late clear spells will be across England and Wales, particularly towards the south, 14 or 15 Celsius. But with the breeze picking up across the UK, well, actually temperatures aren't going to drop as far overnight. We're not going to see that fog redevelop across eastern and southeastern parts of the UK. But it's a clear night for the south and southeast, whilst it's increasingly cloudy for the far west and for many northern parts, with the rain slowly edging into the far northwest of Scotland. As I said, it's not quite as cool first thing, 10 to 12 Celsius for many. And plenty of sunshine through the Midlands, eastern and southern England. And we keep those sunny skies well into the afternoon in the far east of England. But further west, the cloud is thickening all the while. And this slow-moving band of rain is starting to edge by the afternoon into western parts of Northern Ireland, the far northwest of Scotland. It's particularly breezy in the far north. That's going to make it feel cool, much warmer towards the southeast in the sunny spells.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, still to come, Aston Villa at the top of the Champions League.
Well done to them.
Yes, is going to have all the latest next.
Join me, Camila Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camila Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Oedipus is back in the theatre, as Stefan Kyriazis can tell me. Stefan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
A good Oedipus or a bad one?
It's a great one. It's divided the critics a little bit. So some would prefer more kind of truth to the original text, perhaps a little bit more sense of the kind of epic Greek tragedy. I mean, this is Sophocles. It's 2,500 years old, and it's still one of the best, literally, no pun, the mother of all tragedies. It's just absolutely staggering. You like that?
I did. Where and with whom?
So this one is on at the Wyndham Theatre until January the 4th. The exciting thing is Mark Strong as Oedipus, Leslie Manville as his wife, Jocasta, and it's been reframed, you'll see from the pictures, as a modern political thriller. So he is waiting for election results, general election results, you will remember. There's a clock ticking down in the background. They're at Campaign HQ. They're waiting for it to click down to zero. We increasingly know that when it hits zero, terrible truths are coming. So it's operating on two levels. He's obsessed with the truth. He says very famously, I am me. He's so proud of his sense of who he is. And of course, that's all going to be horrendously ripped away. Mark Strong is wonderful. And then when we get to the very end and the horrific final reveal, I forgot. I was so gripped in the political thriller and everything else, I actually swore under my breath in the theatre, Michael, because I just had been so engrossed, and they play very well at other mysteries going on and a family drama, that when my penny dropped, I literally was devastated, and they do it. Even the critics that haven't loved this reframing admit, the two of them, and especially at the end, it's searingly agonising. It's glorious.
2,500 years later,
yeah,
it's still absolutely visceral.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Great night for both English teams in the Champions League last night. But, Paul, my attention goes to Aston Villa to see what they've done. A 2-0 win against Bologna.
Yeah, John Duran scored again. They're calling him a super sub, but although he wasn't very happy because he was the one that was subbed off. So he was very unhappy about that. But Unai Emery said he doesn't mind because, it shows a little passion, that's fine. But Aston Villa, out of the 36 teams that are in the Champions League, although there's games today, they're top. And it's just been such a turnaround since Unai Emery's came in. I keep going on about this.
Do you follow football? Do you support a team?
Spurs, yes.
Well, that's good.
Well, she's very proud of
That's
me.
the right answer.
It is the correct answer.
Yes, the correct answer.
Makes me very proud.
The one...
So, look, Villa were great again last night, and there's a brilliant atmosphere around Villa Park. Every game they're going to now, they're expecting something to happen. Three games, 3 wins, 3 clean sheets.
Yeah, Champions League, or as it was then, European Cup heritage, of course. Which is good.
Yeah. And Arsenal beat Shakhtar Donetsk. It wasn't terribly convincing last night
but it's a win.
by Arsenal, but as we always say, a win's a win.
Yeah.
So tonight, Leipzig, Liverpool away at Leipzig, Manchester City playing Sparta Prague, Atalanta play Celtic. So, Celtic are funny because they lost 7-1 against Dortmund. They beat Bratislava 5-1. So, is it going to be somewhere in the middle? You don't know what you're going to get with Celtic. But anyway, that's Atalanta tonight.
Let's talk about gobbing. At Nottingham Forest. Now this is about spitting, and the owner has been, he's given a 5-match stadium ban for spitting towards the match officials.
Evangelos Marinakis, the owner of Nottingham Forest. So you're right, 5-match stadium ban. It was when they lost to Fulham on the 28th of September. He was very unhappy. There he is. I think that's him holding one in there.
Yeah.
That's letting it before letting it go. So what happened is that he'd gone into the tunnel. He was unhappy with the officials after they lost to Fulham. And he spat on the floor. It's disgusting, isn't it? Spat on the floor.
Could get on his beard and everything.
I know. Can you? And apparently there was no excuse for such an egregious display of disrespectful behaviour. Apparently, now his excuse was what? What do you reckon? For spitting, what was his excuse?
He had to get rid of his gum.
Close. He had a bad cough. He had a bad cough, so it's and then, come on.
I do hate spitting so much.
It's disgusting.
I hate it so much.
It's disgusting.
I think a 5-match ban is the correct thing to do. Socially, it should be seen as unacceptable.
Yeah.
And I would say if anybody spat in my face, I don't care who you are, what the reason was, I'm lamping you.
You're right, yeah.
Absolutely. You're getting one right in the gob from me. Not a spit, a punch.
What about those ones that are by mistake that...
Well, how can it be by mistake?
Well, I'm just like a spitty person when they talk.
I interviewed, I think it was Pierce Brosnan many years ago, and as I was talking to him, a white... I swear this is true, and it landed on his ear, and I was talking, I was like that. So what he did, and he kept talking, and then he went like that, and just went like that. I thought, thank goodness. Yeah. But, when you see it in slow motion, that wasn't Marinakis, though, but...
at school... Kids used to do.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did they do that with you, Ellie? Did you have spitters at school?
No, I went to
Gobbers?
school.
But they would chew up paper.
Pieces of paper?
And then they would throw it to the ceiling and get it stick or the blackboard or...
We had a name for that.
Which was?
They were called flubbergobs.
Flubbergob.
And they go like, I didn't get involved in it, but I saw some that
not
were.
my thing.
Right, Commonwealth Games, they scaled it down for Glasgow, 2026. Victoria in Australia withdrew.
Yeah.
They walked away. So there will be 10 events at the Commonwealth Games: athletics, swimming, track cycling, gymnastics, netball, weightlifting, boxing, judo, bowls, and
basically anything that requires a big audience in a stadium they don't want.
Yeah, well... Diving has always been part of the Commonwealth Games. So there's no diving, there's no badminton this year. Hockey, but they're just trying to scale it down. They're saying it's not a mini Olympics, which it always was for us, but it's not as big as it used to be.
Tell us about your guest in the next hour.
Katie Archibald will join us, 6-time world champion. She just came back from Denmark, where she won a gold medal. The adversities that she'd been through. A couple of years ago, she lost her partner, who passed away. And then, just when she was training for the Olympics earlier on in the year, tripped on a step, horrendous injury just from tripping on a step, dislocated ankle, broken bones, and then she's come back from that and a world champion just last week. So she's going to be with us in an hour, which is going to be terrific.
See you
Stuff.
about 7:15 next time around. Thanks very much indeed.
Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. The clock is ticking, so get your entry in. Here's how.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway. And you really could be next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan and I won £30,000. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And if I can win, anyone can win.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text
Paul.
OK. We'll take a break there. Still to come. Why the most effective drug for Alzheimer's faces a block on the NHS. We're talking about that and other stories making the newspapers right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Cumbria, Park Road is closed each way between Furness Avenue and Thwaite Flat after an accident. In North Yorkshire, the A168 is closed each way alongside the A1 between the A59 at Allerton Park and the A1M at Borough Bridge. That's after a fire at a barn. In Powys, the A470 remains closed in both directions between Glentoimin and Carno for an investigation. Buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth. Trains have been stopped between Shrewsbury and Wolverhampton because of animals on the line at Wellington. On the M2 in Kent, the westbound exit at Junction 2 at Strood and Rochester's closed for emergency repairs. And in Somerset, the A39 is closed each way at Bilbrook after an accident. That's between Minehead and Watchet. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The number of pubs may reach critically low levels.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing is a decline in the number of pubs in Britain, and it's fallen. This is an absolutely astonishing figure. So it's basically fallen 10% in a decade. So do our maths. It doesn't take very long for that to happen. So if that carries on, we'd have, get this, only 1,000 pubs by 2074. So the big question is, what will become extinct first? The bank branch on your high street, or the pub on your street corner? And this is a kind of perfect storm for landlords and landladies of, the cost of labour. Remember when the energy prices were at the high, we just realised just how much energy it keeps to keep the lights on in the local boozer. Yeah. As well as, as the cost of the golden nectar itself. So, as they call it in Australia.
Well, talking about that, I was mentioning the other day to, was it my father-in-law? I said, when I first started going to the pub, I was 15,
Okay.
I was nearly 16, I got half a shandy. No, we used to have Monday Club, where pints of Foster's was £1.50. And my father-in-law was saying, I went to London the other day, a pint was £8.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And when you've got those kind of prices, why wouldn't you just go down the supermarket and get 16 tinnies for £5?
So you're going all Aussie now. Put the tinnies in the esky before you have the bar bit.
Good day, mate. Why not?
Alex,
I agree, actually. I think it's concerning. A lot of people look at the high streets and they're very concerned that it's looking quite glum, to be honest. Lots of things are closing. But the reality is it's because people are not buying from the high street. They're not going to the pub, People are just deciding, what they're going to do in their spare time. Are they really going to go to the pub? Or are they going to potentially go to, David Lloyd or a Nuffield, join a gym membership? They're just looking at their expenses and just deciding, we're going to actually cut costs,
GB News, the People's Channel.
Two of our favourite reviewers for the papers in today, Norman Baker and Scarlett Maguire. We say hello, good morning to both of them. And I want to start, a lot of you may have spent last night reading to your children, but a lot of you have not. Scarlett, tell us the story in the Times.
Well, the problem is that only half of parents read to their children every day. Fewer chat and play with them. And you think, why are you having children? The whole point is...
But the whole point now is a lot of parents want to be their child's mate, their child's friend, their child's bestie, and it's important for the parent to get this adoration back from the child. There are different ways of doing that, and I agree with you. You sort of think you have a duty to maybe teach them things.
Well, I just think, I love books, so I loved reading to my children. And I have to say that for those who have very young ones, it does get boring because they do like the same book over and over again when they're 2 and 3 and you read it over and over again. But as they get older, you can read really, really lovely books. And I know, of course, you can put them on tape and have it done much better than you can. But actually, the other bit is they really like having mum or dad beside them. It's a bond.
Do you know what my kids hated, Norman?
What was that?
I used to do things like, if characters were there, I would give the dragon a voice or something like that. And they would just say, stop doing that.
So uncool, Dad.
So uncool, so uncool.
Well, apparently, I was reading this morning, it's because parents are saying they're too busy or stressed.
I think that's very sad.
Children or play with their children.
It's such a joy to be able to read to children because you get something out of it and they get something out of it. They enjoy it, and it's a bond. It creates a bond between parent and child. I used to like reading my girls' Just William stories. And they used to love them, actually. I didn't put any fake voices on them, I might say. Martin Jarvis is very good at that on the radio, but I just read them as they were. But, I mean, you want to structure kids' upbringing, I think. I mean, they should all be sitting down, for example, I think, with you at a meal once a day, round a table, so you all get together. And I think so, a lot of that's gone. You know, there's too much of kids in bedrooms looking at videos.
And I think it will go more and more artificial intelligence looming. It will be you, Scarlett.
Well, no, but actually also one of the things is as they get older, so we used to play card games, and there's this game that we had a very rude name for, but I think it's Elimination Whist or something. And it was great as the children grew up. Then they said, "Oh, it's my turn. I want to do it now." And it became a game. And if we were on holiday and the plane was delayed, we'd just sit down and we get out the cards. And actually, it was just a really family thing, and we really loved it. And anybody can win. Although I have to say that my partner felt that he should have done all the time.
Well, a lot of you will be reading headlines today about this guy, Chris Kaba, who was shot by an armed police officer. And, Norman, big coverage on this today because we're actually getting the true side of the story and not this loving picture of Kaba, which was over all the newspapers yesterday and giving a complete false impression, I think, of who he was, what he stood for, and how he died and why he died.
Well, of course, the police in general would have been aware of his background and aware of what he was in a way that perhaps the general public wasn't, because they weren't told. And they would have been made an assessment as to whether or not he represented a risk not just to the public but to the police who were engaging with him. I mean, I find this quite extraordinary for two reasons. One is that the police officer, having been found not guilty, is now facing potential expulsion from the police. I mean, that seems to me to be... He's had a trial and he's been found not guilty. That's the end of it. He should get back to work. And otherwise, it's double jeopardy. He's been tried twice effectively for that particular action. But secondly, I don't agree with the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Mark Rowley, who seems to want to have exemptions, sweeping exemptions, according to the Times, for prosecution for officers involved in shootings. Now, you assess each individual action according to whether or not it breaks the law. And if there's a case for it, then the Crown Prosecution Service will assess whether or not a prosecution is merited. And if it is merited, it takes place. It's as simple as that. There's an issue as to whether or not the name of people who are subject to investigation should be made public. And I think that it should only happen when they've been charged formally and not beforehand. But I mean, if an officer in theory behaves in a reprehensible way, then of course it should be subject to trial. We don't want to go down the American road where you get police officers shooting people in the back and are exempt from any prosecution.
I think it's really... I completely agree with you, Norman. I think it's really, really important that our police are held to account because I think we have to trust them. And I think... I mean, I know that, a lot of people felt he should never have been put through this, but actually... whatever Chris Kaba was and however awful he was in a car and he was unarmed and he was killed. And
don't agree with you. He was using that car as a fatal weapon, driving it into people.
And there needed to be an investigation.
Well, because of your opinion there and your sort of attitude, I would say, why would I want to be an armed police officer? You get all the risk, none of the praise, none of the glory for it, nothing, and yet you're there saving people's lives. Why are we worried about Kaba? Why are we worried?
No, I'm not talking about a personal thing. I think it's very important that the police can be held to account because I think we trust them more, right? And I think that's what's important. It's important that we have a police force. As the police say over and over again, we rule by consent, right? That's how they do it. And actually, it's really, really important that we trust them and that we know that if they're going to do something wrong, that they're going to be held account and they're not above the law. I just think that's fantastic. And I'm really proud to live in a country where police are not above the law.
I totally agree with that. And the number of police shootings, actually, in this country is minuscule compared to what happens in America. Yeah. And people over there, police officers over there, just seem to be waving guns around and shooting people willy-nilly. I know someone who was stopped for a speeding offence, a British citizen on an American highway, and told put his hands on the wheel. If he took his hands off the wheel, he'd be shot. Yeah, that's what the officer said to him.
I suppose the problem is, Norman, it's that everybody there has the right to carry a gun.
Well, it's mad, actually. I mean, you know, the American system is completely bonkers. I don't actually think it's what the original founding fathers meant by the Constitution. This idea that everybody should be tooled up with semi-automatic machine guns, which is what they've got over there.
Scarlett, can we have a look at this story on non-profit water firms in The Guardian? This is part of this.
This is... Oh, please, can it happen? Would be a lovely story. Apparently, I did not realise until I read it that Welsh Water is owned but doesn't make a profit. So all the money goes back into trying to deal with pollution. Now, we have discussed on this programme, Eamonn and I have gone on and on about how dreadful the water companies are and that they make an incredible profit and they pollute our rivers, they pollute our seas. And what the government is looking at is rather than nationalising them, which would cost an absolute fortune, is actually having them owned but not at a profit. So
why would anybody enter into that?
Well, Welsh Water has done, and that's what happens all over Europe. I mean, it's only here where we have foreigners owning our water companies, making a profit and polluting our country. Frankly, that it's. I mean, it's.
But I just don't see what the attraction is outside being a sort of philanthropist or whatever. Why would you want to own a water company and not make any money from it?
Well, I mean, if that's what the government rules, and I hope they do rule, actually, down that road, then obviously people who are employed by the water company get quite well paid, and that would continue. So
they'd get bonuses. The people who... They'd get bonuses and everything like that for doing it well.
Yes.
But this time, I mean, you know, at Thames, they get a bonus for how big the profit is.
Yes, and how many times they've failed to properly deal with their sewage. The less responsible they are, the higher the bonus the employees get. I mean, there's only one thing greater than the sewage pouring into our seas, into our rivers, which is the money pouring out into the pockets of people who are working for the water companies.
And now this increase that we hear about today, Ellie, £100, is it?
Yeah.
That the increases all around the country, and you don't have a choice in that. You have to pay that. So that's a lot of dosh, isn't it?
This is the worst privatisation ever, the water companies, in my view. I mean, you can privatise things like British Airways because there's competition, but privatising a monopoly of life, water, is absolutely wrong, and they've failed completely. And if you look at the water company ownership across the world, I think it's us in Chile, and forgive me if it's not Chile, anyone who's Chilean and listening, I got that wrong, where this arrangement applies. It doesn't apply in Wales, it doesn't apply in Scotland, it applies in England, and it's completely wrong.
And actually, worse than that is, you say you don't have a choice, you really don't have a choice, but whereas with heating, you can turn your heating off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't matter.
No.
You have to pay these wretched water bills that just go up and up and up, and there's nothing you can do. You know, it's not like you stop having baths or something.
Actually, there's a curiosity in this country that unless you've got a water meter, if you don't have a water meter, your water bill is based on the rateable value of your house from 1989, before the poll tax. because no one dare change it. I mean,
so is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It doesn't even. Well, it's completely mad because there's no relation to reality from that. We were talking about a fictional
But you would
value.
be better off being like that.
It depends how much water you use. I'm on a water meter. I don't use very much water, so I'm actually better off by having a water meter. And actually, environmentally, it's more responsible to pay as you go along rather than have a blank charge.
OK. Norman, Scarlett, we are heading to Samoa to talk to Cameron Walker soon because King and Queen are arriving. So we're doing a slightly shorter papers with you. You'll be with us in the next hour. Thank you very much indeed. So do stay with us. We'll be heading live to Samoa where the King and Queen are continuing their royal tour. That's next.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
National Trust Director General has said something rather curious. She's admitted that 70% of the charity's staff are Union Jack-hating progressive activists. Yes, this was speaking at a Labour Party fringe event. The boss of the charity, Hilary McGrady, acknowledged that there was a gap between her staff's views and the views held by the wider public. So was she being honest? Joining me now to discuss this is historian and broadcaster Rafe Hadel-Manku, who I believe is with me. Rafe, thank you very much indeed. Can this be true?
The founders of the National Trust and later figures involved in it, like my hero James Lees Milne, were really motivated by love of nation. But I think that love of nation in the Trust has become actively, national self-loathing. And that's really the state of modern Britain. And with the Trust, I mean, what we've done is we've actually entrusted our national heritage to those people who actually actively despise our national heritage. And it's, it's utter madness.
Have these people wanted to take over charities like the National Trust for their political ends, or is it just something that happens? Is it just the type of people who work in charities?
This has been part of the long march through the institutions, that people need to understand that Britain is now a post-revolutionary society. So the buildings that house our institutions look the same, but the people who now run them bear no comparison to the generations who lovingly built and ran them. They are cuckoos in the nest, and we need to understand that. And of course, once you realize that, of course, that explains completely why, the National Trust and others have crudely tried to denigrate our national heroes and link them and their houses to colonialism and slavery, as they ludicrously tried to do.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Time is 6:46 and we're heading to Samoa now because the King and Queen have said farewell to Australia and are on their way to Samoa as we speak. It's the second leg of their tour that's getting underway.
Their Majesties will be formally welcomed to the island and they will attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which is taking place there as well.
Well, they're due to touch down in Samoa shortly, so let's see what the mood's like over there now. We'll speak to Cameron Walker, our royal correspondent, who is on the ground in Samoa for us. Good to see you, Cameron. Is there a lot of excitement there in Samoa for the King and Queen's arrival?
The military band has just finished playing some music there, anticipating His Majesty the King and Queen Camilla's King. Of course, the first time the visited the South Pacific nation together. It is, of course, to start Queen, at least, the Commonwealth first time as the organisation's symbolic head that he has presided.
Well, as you see there, we're having difficulty
Queen
with
Elizabeth
the link to Cameron today. Samoa is a long way away and in the middle of nowhere, basically, isn't it?
It certainly is.
It's in the Pacific Ocean.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So,
did you know that, Norman?
I wouldn't be able to find that on a map, I don't think, to be perfectly honest with you. I knew it was vaguely over there, but I wouldn't be able to find it. Is it Western Samoa? Is that the same thing as Samoa?
That's a great question, which we're actually not too clear on.
Between Australia and Hawaii. Yeah.
It's slap bang in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
That's a very big area.
Yes, Australia to Hawaii is a few hours plane.
It's off the east coast of Australia. So Cameron Walker there, as you could see, was on the runway. King and Queen are going to receive a royal and formal welcome to Samoa. We will try and get that for you and bring that to you as soon as we can on GB News.
Now, Scarlett, looking ahead to the budget, which is around Halloween weekend, that's next week, a bit of a boost for the Chancellor because the International Monetary Fund says the economy is doing quite well in terms of growth.
Yes. I have to say that I misread the story to begin with and thought it said 11% growth, but it's 1.1.
Yes, yeah.
Which, to me, doesn't feel an amazing growth. But
it's better than nothing.
It's absolutely better than nothing, and it's a lot better than negative, which should, everybody will be pleased to know, affect interest rates. That the interest rate should come down for all those people who are trying to renegotiate mortgages. Hold on for a little bit and let's see if it happens. I mean, it is really good news. It means that she can say growth is on the up, finally, and we can look at the budget. I know nothing, but I personally would doubt it's going to have any effect on anything that happens in the budget.
I agree with you, yeah. I think, Norman, you look at these things. We've all faced rises, cost of living crisis and whatever, shrinkflation. I don't think anything, as Scarlett was saying there, is going to reverse. They're not suddenly going to say, here's your Maltesers now, back to normal in a big packet. You know, it's all going to be OK, your Quality Street and, you know, whatever else. I think prices have gone up and prices will stay up.
Well, they will. I mean, they won't come down. And actually, I'm going to go and visit a quick advert for the Packaging Museum in Kent, near Portobello Road, which is a fascinating place to go because you see all the sizes of products as they were 20, 30 years ago.
Really? Are they much bigger?
Oh, yes. I mean, Mars bars look like Mars bars, not like Milky Ways, which is what they look like now.
Like bricks?
Absolutely.
And you just see how your teeth on a Mars bar.
God, I remember you could barely finish a Mars bar.
I know, that's right.
Yeah, it was like a meal for a week.
Now you can barely...
eat 2 or 3.
Now you can barely start it. Topping used to be a hazelnut in every bite. Now it's a hazelnut in the bar. I mean, that's how it was. But on the IMF, I mean, there's one thing I'd like to know is that 1.1%, this prediction which they give, how many times in the past has the IMF been correct and how many times it's been wrong? I mean, can we actually store by this 1.1% prediction, or can we not? We ought to analyse how effective they are at predicting things.
And just how fragile the world economy is, because all it takes, I mean, we've got so many disputes going on around the world, in the Middle East, Ukraine, whatever, and all it takes is for that to get out of hand and prices through the roof again.
Yes, I mean, prices through the roof. We've still got a real gas problem. And I think that they're trying to bring in Russian gas through Azerbaijan so that the Azerbaijanis go, well, it's sort of ours. But we're desperate to get it. And if we don't get it, then prices will go up enormously. So, I mean, actually, there's very little Britain can do. All this talk about we're bringing down inflation. I mean, it was interesting when inflation went up, it wasn't our fault, but when it came down, it was all due to us. I mean, obviously, it is due to those factors. It's got absolutely nothing to do with British economic policy at all. It's what happens, and if if we end up having with Israel really going for Iran, so that there's a serious war in the Middle East, who knows what's going to happen?
Now, Norman, do you speak to your plants?
I don't think... Well, I look after them. I sort of telepathically say, do you want some water?
But you wouldn't have a chat?
No, I wouldn't have a chat.
No, but what he's saying is that there's a positive empathy there. There is, you look at it and you look at it in a loving way or a serious way or a concerned way.
You feel a connection with your
I think
plants.
there's a communication, whether we call it talking.
Exactly. It's not, they don't understand English, I don't think. But, but I mean, I think they get the vibes.
They do get the vibes, Norman. This is correct. This is in the Mail today, page 3. It's the vibrations of your voice that boosts their growth because they respond to them, knowing that they're being encouraged.
Yeah.
And there's now an app, did you know? AI is helping, and the plants can speak back. So AI, I imagine you upload a photo or something, and the plants tell you if they need watering or not.
And of course, we know whether AI is right or not. I mean, you know...
I think they just pull on weather forecasts and how your plant's looking, if they're looking a bit crisp.
So you're talking about going in the garden. Yes,
Do you talk to your plants?
No, so I've got a lot of plants around my kitchen sink that are just sort of there, and it's amazing. They just go on. I mean, and I don't talk to them at all. I'm nicer to the plants in the garden. I don't talk to them, but I do water each of them individually with my hose.
How do they talk back? How does this work?
The use of AI. So I assume you upload a photo on this app, and then it can tell whether it needs a drink or not, and then it talks back to you. So now you can have a two-way conversation with your plants.
And I assume it costs money.
Thanks to AI, I imagine
it's a way of making money out of people.
Yes, I suspect that's the bottom root of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it must be, mustn't it?
Maybe I need to start talking to my plants. I can't keep anything alive.
Oh, dear.
I know, I'm very bad.
There's a lady I've interviewed a few times and met personally, Jane Goodall is her name, and she talks to monkeys.
Well, that's rather different. I mean, she's brilliant.
Incredible. But what I'm trying to say is I think there is a language out there that a lot of us have to learn how to tap into, and we're just not doing it yet. But we will one day.
No, well, I think talking to monkeys or dogs, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, when I had a dog, I mean, I could talk to the dog.
Yeah. Well, right now we're going to talk to Aidan McGivern. Here he is with the weather.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Foggy start for some of us, particularly in the southeast, but the fog will be replaced by sunny spells as we go through the day. Odd shower possible, those showers already affecting the south of England. And the fog, extensive across Lincolnshire, East Anglia and the southeast, will tend to lift by about 10 or 11 a.m. to sunny spells. And it's a fine day for many places, sunny spells. And for much of the country, it's dry, but we do have those showers moving north across the southern half of the UK. 16 or 17 Celsius in the sunshine in the south, 14 or 15 further north, turning increasingly cloudy across northern and western Scotland and Northern Ireland as the day progresses. A few light showers in the far northwest, the breeze picking up as well. But well, it's a largely fair end to the day across Scotland, even if increasingly cloudy. Likewise for Northern Ireland, the cloud thickening, 13 Celsius as the sun goes down. Best of any late clear spells will be across England and Wales, particularly towards the south, 14 or 15 Celsius. But with the breeze picking up across the UK, well, actually temperatures aren't going to drop as far overnight. We're not going to see that fog redevelop across eastern and southeastern parts of the UK. But it's a clear night for the south and southeast, whilst it's increasingly cloudy for the far west and for many northern parts, with the rain slowly edging into the far northwest of Scotland. As I said, it's not quite as cool first thing, 10 to 12 Celsius for many. And plenty of sunshine through the Midlands, eastern and southern England. And we keep those sunny skies well into the afternoon in the far east of England. But further west, the cloud is thickening all the while. And this slow-moving band of rain is starting to edge by the afternoon into western parts of Northern Ireland, the far northwest of Scotland. It's particularly breezy in the far north. That's going to make it feel cool, much warmer towards the southeast in the sunny spells.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Cumbria, Park Road is closed each way between Furness Abbey and Thwaite Flat after an accident. In North Yorkshire, the A168 is closed in both directions, alongside the A1M between Allerton Park and Borough Bridge. Of a fire at a barn. In Powys, the A470 remains closed each way between Glentoymin and Carno for an investigation, with buses replacing trains again today between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth. Trains have been stopped between Shrewsbury and Wolverhampton because of animals on the line. On the M11 in Cambridgeshire, the northbound exit at junction 10 at Duxford is partly blocked by an accident. On the M2 in Kent, the westbound exit at junction 2, the Extrude and Rochester turns closed for emergency bridge repairs. And in Somerset, the A39 is blocked by an accident at Bilbrook to the east of Minehead. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win a whopping £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway. That's like having £3,000 each month for an entire year. Extra cash in your bank account that you can do whatever you like with. Make sure you don't miss out. Get your entry in now. Just one entry could make you the winner. For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232.
Find me, Martyn Doney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Radical Muslims.
Very good morning to you. Chris Kaba's violent past is finally revealed.
It can now be reported that Kaba was a member of the notorious 6-7 gang that wreaked havoc on our capital.
Firearms officer Martin Blake may have been found not guilty of Kaba's murder, but he could still face gross misconduct charges.
With just days until the US election, Donald Trump lashes out at the UK Labour Party, accusing them of interfering with Kamala Harris's campaign.
A new review of water companies promises the biggest shake-up in history, but with bills set to soar by more than £100, is the government too slow to act?
A GB News exclusive reveals civil servants blocked secret plans for a Rwanda-style deportation deal with Uganda over human rights concerns.
A group of faith schools clubbed together to resist the government's decision to strip private schools of charitable status. Could this put a spanner in the government's plans?
Racing legend Michael Schumacher's daughter has received backlash for taking her husband's surname. This morning, we're debating whether wives should take their husbands' names.
And in the sport this morning, out of the 36 teams in the competition, Aston Villa are top of the Champions League after beating Bologna 2-0. As Arsenal just about beat Shakhtar Donetsk at home. It's Manchester City, Liverpool and Celtic's turn tonight. And from missing the Paris Olympics through injury to world champion last week, cyclist Katie Archibald joins us in about 20 minutes.
A foggy start for many of us this morning, but brighter skies are on their way, at least for a short period. Full forecast coming up soon.
The time, 1 minute, coming up to 2 minutes past 7 o'clock on this Wednesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Yes, we've got that debate a little bit later on this morning about whether or not a wife should take their husband's names.
It's amazing that's making the news today. This is Michael Schumacher's daughter. So she's got married and she's taken the husband's surname.
But
and
she's a Schumacher. I wouldn't have...
I know what you said, but haven't you noticed, though, that when there's someone who's famous, if there's a daughter who has a famous father, nearly always will they include that name.
Yeah.
They will never change that name because they like to go, but I'm so-and-so, so I'll be so-and-so. So they go, oh, are you the daughter of? Do you know what I mean? So they always seem to use that.
I don't like double-barreled names.
is a lot now,
She's
isn't
like
it?
Schumacher Smith or whatever she's going to be. You know, it's
It's got a lovely ring to it, though, hasn't it, Schumacher Smith?
That's actually quite nice.
Footballers are the prime example of this.
Yeah.
That footballers have like 3 names at the end. You know?
Yeah.
And then they put a name on the back of the shirt, which has nothing to do with what their real name is. It's their nickname or whatever.
That gets me going. Don't put the nickname. It shouldn't be allowed.
Shouldn't be
Don't
allowed.
put the nickname on a shirt. It's an official document. The back.
Do you have a nickname for me?
Yes, I do. I couldn't say that right now. But it's very loving, Eamon, you know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about names and whether a woman should take the husband's name all the time or some of the time or split it up in 2? Or it doesn't bother me one way or the other, really.
Ellie, what are you going to do, Ellie?
I'm still deciding, but I don't think I'll be taking.
Oh, really?
Half surname. I like Costello. It's nice.
It is nice.
Really nice.
It's very nice because it could be Abbott.
Abbott and Costello.
You know,
there's one that only you and me are going to get there.
I'm not particularly precious. I honestly think the rules should be who's got the better surname, and you take that.
Yeah, that works.
I just think that should be the modern decision. But it's dividing.
Do you know who Abbott and Costello are?
No. Oh, wait, it sounds like a detective series.
No, anything but. No.
Who's on first?
Deborah said, women should not use the husband's surname. The law doesn't provide for it. This obnoxious convention means the practice simply removes her autonomy, and pressure to do so in the past meant that most women did so because they thought they must. The days when men were heads of the household and ruled the roost are well and truly over.
You're right there.
But then
let us know your views, have your say. Let's cross over to Liberal Democrat Deputy Leader Daisy Cooper this morning. Is Cooper the name you were born with, or did you acquire Cooper along the way, Daisy?
I'm sorry, I missed that question. I couldn't quite hear you.
We're just talking in the news today. It's whether a woman should take her husband's surname or not. We're just wondering, did you do that?
I didn't, I'm afraid, no. I am very happily married, but I haven't taken my husband's surname.
Yeah.
Go. It's a strong name.
Yeah, there we go. So, anyway, today we're talking about... Now, Daisy, you want to talk about these water companies. They're making the news again today, and they're going to be increasing bills again. What have you got to say about them?
Well, look, the Conservatives did absolutely nothing to tackle this issue. And I think people have been rightly outraged that we've got these big water companies paying out billions of pounds in dividends and water bosses getting huge bonuses, whilst we taxpayers are being asked to cough up to clean up the mess that the water companies have made. So, we're pleased that the Labour government are doing something about this in terms of announcing this review. But we Liberal Democrats would say that we already know what the answers are, and we've put those answers forward. We want to see a ban on water bosses' bonuses until sewage dumping stops. We want to see the period of time that the regulator gives to revoke licences reduced from 25 years, which I think is scandalous, down to just 6 months. We want to restructure these water companies so they are required in law to put their environmental principles above making profit. And so we know what these solutions are. We Liberal Democrats have put those ideas forward, and we hope very much that the Labour government will act with urgency to take our ideas forward.
Well, the talk is they're going to act on the water watchdog. So it faces the axe, the accusation being that it doesn't do too much, that it's a bit toothless.
Yes, and we would agree with that. I mean, we have exposed time and time again that the water regulator Ofwat is in fact toothless. We've showed before that they have the powers to issue fines, but in the last few years since they started their investigation, they haven't issued a single fine on the big water companies. And we simply don't believe that if Ofwat can't even issue a fine when we know that sewage dumping is happening, then it clearly isn't fit for purpose. And that's why we've called repeatedly and call again now for that water regulator Ofwat to be scrapped entirely and replaced with a brand new regulator with teeth that could take on the job of clearing up our waterways.
Do we need to be looking at a not-for-profit model, such as Welsh Water, such as the model used across many European countries? Is that the answer?
Well, I think what's interesting is that if you look at England, Wales and Scotland, all three nations have very different structures for their water companies. Some are privatised, some are nationalised, some are non-profit. And in fact, sewage dumping has been a major problem across all three nations. So what we have said is that we want to see a new model where these companies would be turned into public benefit companies. And the real thing about a public benefit company is that the companies would be required in law to meet environmental principles and deliver on those before they can make any profit. And we think that that is the best model to tackle this issue.
Daisy, talking about making profit, we're just over a week away from Labour's first budget. The International Monetary Fund today reporting that the UK economy could grow by 1.1%. Not much, but at least it's in the right direction. Are you worried about anything particular that may come our way in the budget that would get in the way of this?
Well, look, I think many of us are, many of us are very concerned about the state of the economy that the Conservatives have left. Thanks to the Conservatives, our economy has effectively been flatlining, and we have families all around the country still struggling with a cost of living crisis. At the same time, the Conservatives put our taxes up to record levels, and people feel as though our public services are on their knees. So the Labour government has got a terrible inheritance. But what we have said as a party is that in order to get growth and to build our economy, we want to see the government investing in health and social care, because health and wealth are two sides of the same coin, and only if we can help people get back to work and access the care that they need can we then get the economy moving again. But at the same time, we also want to protect small businesses as well, and we are concerned by rumours that the government may be thinking about increasing employees' national insurance contributions, because we Liberal Democrats believe that small businesses are the engine of our economy, and we really need to be using and empowering and incentivising small businesses, not delivering another blow and another piece of red tape that's going to make it harder for them to invest in their small businesses and to keep our communities alive.
You just mentioned investment in health and social care. New figures from the Lib Dems out this morning. 1 million patients have faced waits of up to 12 hours or more in A&E. That's up from last year, isn't it?
It is. What's interesting is that figure you just we haven't even.
Yep, looks as though we've just lost audio there with Daisy Cooper,
and
I'm afraid. Yeah, apologies for that line there. That was Daisy Cooper of the Lib Dems.
Sorry for the technicalities there, and apologies to Daisy Cooper for that as well. But it's interesting, she was saying investing in health and social care. You see, a lot of people don't see that as investing at all. They see it as spending money, and that's why there's just no. I mean, the terrible state that social care is. We've got Oscar Redrop with us in the studio here, political commentator, and that is always going to be the problem with health and social care, isn't it? It's not seen as investing; it's seen as spending.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was actually quite refreshing to hear it framed in those terms. I think it's probably something if the Conservatives were really honest about and reflective about. They haven't really described it as such often. So it was really interesting to hear Lib Dem were very, very prominent, and actually I thought it was a very impressive media performance to hear Daisy speak of it in those terms, because ultimately it has to get buy-in, and I think it's absolutely right. Like if people feel good, and this absolutely reflects in terms of mental health as well as physical health. And they can go out there, they can be the best of themselves, and ultimately they can help grow the economy, because we have a huge productivity issue in the
Oscar,
UK.
just got to put the brakes on you for a second there, because things are happening in Samoa.
Yeah, we're going to head to Samoa now, where the King and Queen are arriving in the country. They've said goodbye to Australia. This is the second part of their royal tour. They've just landed in Samoa, and they're going to receive a formal welcome here on the tarmac by the country's Prime Minister when they step off this plane. You can see the flags there, the royal flag and the Samoan flag on that plane there. And there's going to be an honour guard formed by the Samoan police force, we're told. You can see that actually in the left-hand side of the screen.
And the steps just been brought up now beside the plane, and so they might be ready just to step off. I don't think there'll be any delay with that, but obviously in the middle of the night there, and that's the thing about what's going on there. the time difference is just going to be so vast, isn't it?
Yeah, and you think about the king and obviously his cancer diagnosis. I mean, this is a grueling trip for him. 6 days in Australia, 2 days now in Samoa, a long flight from Australia to Samoa. You can imagine he is absolutely exhausted. But we have heard from Cameron Walker, haven't we, in the past few days, that there has been time carved out of this schedule for rest days.
Yeah.
And for time.
You see, I know a lot of people will say, what are you talking about? He's going to be exhausted and whatever. He's meeting and greeting and shaking hands. But I do have to say to you, you know, speaking as someone who's mobbed almost everywhere I go, it can be seriously
socially draining as well.
Socially draining.
Yeah.
I mean, pressing hands, Oscar, you know, with people, being nice to everybody, trying to remember everyone's name. After a few hours of that, suddenly you go, woof.
It's a tough gig, Eamonn. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't.
It was lovely, though, to see their reception at the Sydney Opera House. This time yesterday, Eamonn, and 8,000 people.
Yeah.
Crowded to capture a glimpse of the King and Queen and reaching out for their hands, taking photos. I mean, they were very well received in Australia on the whole. Some, obviously, protesters. But they really enjoyed that trip. And they have actually posted on X, the King and Queen. Well, I imagine their people did rather than actually the King and Queen. Yeah. They said, as we head towards Samoa, we can't wait to visit for the first time together and to experience the warmth of ancient traditions with your remarkable people. They're clearly very excited about this trip.
Yeah, I just want to stick with this in case they, you know, knowing our luck, we'll break off, they'll open the door and they'll, you know, the king will fall down the stairs or something there.
Don't say that. But the door is opening here on this Royal Australian Air Force plane. So we should very shortly capture a glimpse of the King and Queen.
So there is a Commonwealth gathering here, which is why they're there.
Yes, the King, as we know, is head of the Commonwealth. And it's actually the first time he's going to preside over this gathering of presidents and prime ministers. So Sir Keir Starmer is also going to be there. And the King is formally opening this event a little bit later on.
Well, I can't see if that's them or not, but they're moving a bit fast to be them, I would have thought.
I think that's probably their people.
But
David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, is also going to be in Samoa.
Was he there as well?
Yeah.
Samoa is part of the Commonwealth, but not under British rule, is that right?
So it was previously owned by Britain. It was under British and New Zealand colonial administration until 1962, when it became independent. So it's been independent since 1962, but it is now part of the Commonwealth. And here are the King.
There we go.
Queen.
There's the King, another nice suit on, and looking resplendent there in her trouser outfit. Is
Grey
the,
suit,
Her
blue
Majesty
tie.
the Queen.
Yes, and it looks like a caftan, almost a caftan type top here, with white trousers. So both of them just taking their time, holding on to the railings, heading off that flight from Australia. You
He's
can hear
not
the
like a
military
traditional husband there who would be taking his wife's hand or whatever. Because he's the king, he walks ahead, she's got to walk behind.
Oh,
so
is that how it works?
Yeah, he doesn't sort of assist her down there in those
Amazing
places.
shots.
So there you are. Those pictures to you live and exclusively here on GB News this morning. We'll bring you more because we've got Cameron Walker out there, and Cameron will be sending us a report as the programme progresses.
Yeah.
We'll just get an update now of what else is happening news-wise, and we will bring that to you. Actually, we're not going to do that. We're going to go to the weather instead. Let's get the weather picture. Here we go with Aidan McGivern.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Foggy start for some of us, particularly in the southeast, but the fog will be replaced by sunny spells as we go through the day. Odd shower possible, those showers already affecting the south of England. And the fog, extensive across Lincolnshire, East Anglia and the southeast, will tend to lift by about 10 or 11 a.m. to sunny spells. And it's a fine day for many places, sunny spells. And for much of the country, it's dry, but we do have those showers moving north across the southern half of the UK. 16 or 17 Celsius in the sunshine in the south, 14 or 15 further north, turning increasingly cloudy across northern and western Scotland and Northern Ireland as the day progresses. A few light showers in the far northwest, the breeze picking up as well. But Well, it's a largely fair end to the day across Scotland, even if increasingly cloudy. Likewise for Northern Ireland, the cloud thickening, 13 Celsius as the sun goes down. Best of any late clear spells will be across England and Wales, particularly towards the south, 14 or 15 Celsius. But with the breeze picking up across the UK, well, actually temperatures aren't going to drop as far overnight. We're not going to see that fog redevelop across eastern and southeastern parts of the UK. But it's a clear night for the south and southeast, whilst it's increasingly cloudy for the far west and for many northern parts, with the rain slowly edging into the far northwest of Scotland. As I said, it's not quite as cool first thing, 10 to 12 Celsius for many. And plenty of sunshine through the Midlands, eastern and southern England. And we keep those sunny skies well into the afternoon in the far east of England. But further west, the cloud is thickening all the while. And this slow-moving band of rain is starting to edge by the afternoon into western parts of Northern Ireland, the far northwest of Scotland. It's particularly breezy in the far north. That's going to make it feel cool, much warmer towards the southeast in the sunny spells.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, let's head back to Samoa, shall we, where the King and Queen have just arrived. They are receiving that formal welcome to the country. They've been greeted by the country's Prime Minister. They've just stepped off that jet from Australia. They are currently receiving an honour guard from the Samoan police force, standing to attention for the King and Queen here. You can see in their white suits. King Charles is currently inspecting those police officers. He is going to be heading this meeting, this Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting today, where Sir Keir Starmer will also be attending, a gathering of presidents and prime ministers. And the theme this year is One Resilient Common Future. So the King will be opening that officially later on today.
And of course, he is the head of the Commonwealth. And for the first time, he's going to preside over the gathering of various presidents and prime ministers who will be there. And he'll formally open the whole event, which will be attended by the Prime Minister as well. That's our Prime Minister I'm talking about.
Yes, the King currently just walking through this guard, this honour guard of the Samoan police force. Can't actually see the Queen, so I don't know where she has gone, Queen Camilla, but I have got some details on her outfit that have been sent through to us. She is wearing a pink embroidered tunic top and white palazzo trousers by Anna Valentine. And the King is looking very smart, isn't he, in a grey suit?
I notice he has had a revamp on the clothing front since he's been king.
Well, you'd expect that, wouldn't you? I think they're both looking very well.
Well, I know they've got stuff that you would think has been worn by their uncles and their grandparents and what is all very classically designed, but there's definitely a different cut with what he's got and what's going on.
He's usually very sustainable with his suits, isn't he? And actually it was noted on the Australian tour that he had turned up his trousers on some of his suits, so he does tend to wear things as long as he can, but they do both look very, very smart today. We just saw them come down that flight of stairs, didn't we? Take their time coming off that jet from Australia. You can imagine they are both absolutely exhausted. It looks like the middle of the night in Samoa, doesn't it? It's pitch black out there. Let's see what the time says. Oh, it's 7:30.
There's the Queen. There she is there. Well, so what is she wearing?
She is wearing a pink embroidered tunic top and white palazzo trousers by Anna Valentine. She's certainly dressed for the weather. I think it's 28 degrees currently in Samoa. And they have actually tweeted the royal family. They've posted on X saying they are really excited to visit Samoa for the first time together and to experience the warmth of ancient traditions with your remarkable people. And you can really feel the warmth, can't you, looking at these pictures?
Sure it
the
is.
amount, not only is it going to be physically hot, but the amount of people that are there turning out to greet their majesties. And you see lots of shaking hands now, meeting of dignitaries and officials. The King and Queen here just greeting and enjoying their first moments together in Samoa.
Enjoy that. We will say welcome to Samoa, Her Majesty's and His Majesty and everybody else's Majesty. You could be bathing in Your Majesty if you were to win our great British giveaway.
Yes.
Have a go.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway, and you really could be next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan and I won £30,000. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And if I can win, anyone can win.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost.
You at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Going to talk about private schools now, very much in the news. And we're talking this particular private school is a Christian private school.
Yes, and it's urging the government to offer exemptions to religious schools and its plan to tax school fees.
Well, our East Midlands reporter, Will Hollis, he's got the picture.
She tore through the house.
Christian classrooms come at a cost. At Emmanuel School in Derby, parents pay £4,000 a year. Soon it will be more. The government plans to tax private school fees. Head teacher Ben Snowden says that discriminates against religious schools.
We believe that this is denying parents the choice to send their children to an independent school that aligns with their faith.
Brits pay VAT on almost everything, a 20% tax on goods and services, except for private school fees. Ben thinks religious schools, which he says are low fee, should be exempt.
Parents who are choosing to send their children to a faith school like ours aren't choosing it because they've got lots of money and they want to spend it on their children's education. If schools like ours end up closing, then parents won't have that choice.
The Institute for Fiscal Studies estimates the Labour policy could raise £1.5 billion.
I think there wouldn't be a difference to pay an extra 20% or 15%.
I think it's very unfair on people who work hard to give the children a better start in life.
I
think they should, because then it benefits the children and the parents that can't quite afford that education.
3 schools, including Emmanuel in Derby, are taking the government to court. The faith schools claim that the policy will be oppressive and could be devastating to some in the private sector. The campaign group Christian Concern believes the tax is illegal. Steve Bigu is head of education.
It's a courageous decision that they've made to do this. There's actually something that's occurring which could be seen as breaking the international law, human rights law. Parents should not be disrespected in their efforts to be able to have their children taught in ways that conform to their religious and philosophical viewpoints.
A Treasury spokesperson said, "We want to ensure all children have the best chance in life to succeed. Ending tax breaks on private schools will help to raise the revenue needed to fund our education priorities for next year, such as recruiting 6,500 new teachers. The tax sets in on January 1st. Will Hollis, GB News in Derby.
You know, don't know what your view is on this. Have your say. That's what we want to hear from you about. A lot of people are discriminatory about this because it is private and therefore they don't think you should be able to pay for a better education like that. You could argue they're taking pressure off the existing system as well. But who knows? Have your say, and should they be discriminated against in this way?
Yeah, gbnews.com/your say. Now, do stay with us. Coming up, from missing the Paris Olympics to winning gold at the World Championships last week, cyclist Katie Archbold is with us next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Paris, the A470 remains closed each way between Glantoyman and Carno for an investigation. Buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth. Some buses extended on to Aberystwyth. Now in Cambridgeshire on the A14, the inside lanes closed westbound where someone's broken down just before junction 24A. Near Cambridge, there are queues from junction 25. On the M11 in Cambridgeshire, the northbound exit at junction 10 at Duxford is partly blocked by an accident. On the M25 in Hertfordshire, the outside lanes closed anti-clockwise just before junction 19 at Watford after an accident, with queues from junction 21 for the M1. On the M2 in Kent, the westbound exit at junction 2, the Strood and Rochester is closed for emergency bridge repairs. And on the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camila Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camila Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've now got the sport with the big names here and a world champion, Mr. Paul Coyte. Well, I know you're a world champion. But
well, of course I am. Yes, I am. Yeah. I've got the rainbow striped jersey. Before we bring her in, I'll tell you about her. Katie Archibald tragically lost her partner a couple of years ago, and then as she was training for the Olympics, coming into the Olympics, so this is just earlier on this year, she's all ready to go, slipped on a step in the garden, dislocates her ankle, breaks bones in her leg. Then she's out of the Olympics. She's two-time Olympic champion, six-time world champion anyway. So then she had to sit out of the Olympics. I mean, this is just like a freak accident. And then the Olympics come round. She's got to watch it at home, but still has continued. The World Championships happened in Denmark last week, and she won a gold and a bronze.
Incredible.
She is incredible. The great Katie Archibald. Morning, Katie.
Can we meet her?
Well, let's meet her right now. She's waiting for us. Hiya, Katie.
Morning.
Listen.
You're a woman of little words, Katie. Morning.
Yeah, good morning. It's I suppose it should be the stereotype that athletes are up to being this time, but no, not us. I'm still waiting on the sun rising before I can give you any trouble.
Well, I tell you, we're in awe of you. We're in awe of what you've achieved and how you face it and where on earth you get not only the physical fortitude, but the mental fortitude to do what you do.
Well, I think sport is filled with people living real lives, and whenever you think you've met somebody that's not overcome something, you tend to not know them well enough. Has been my experience of it, and I think that's quite nice about having a platform like the sporting platform, as it tells these little microcosms of stories, whether that can be in one day in a race of the story from the start of it to the end, or over a season in somebody's career. So it's probably why I'm a big fan, as well as somebody on the other side.
Tell me about, Katie, before we get to the World Championships, what happened before the Olympics. This is probably this story you've had to tell so many times, but this was just a freak accident, wasn't it? Just out in the garden.
Yeah, I've heard the phrase freak accident enough times and I've had friends say to me, like, but what really happened? And I can't get my head around. I'd had slightly more bad luck. I've had previous ankle sprains. I got hit by a car a couple of years ago, and so sprained both my ankles. And so you have this thing called reduced proprioception. So I guess I'm slightly less aware of when I've rolled my ankle than somebody else might be. And I guess just vulnerable to something like this. And once you dislocate it, everything else has got to go, as it would seem. But sort of in a very good position to be supported and make that recovery, learn those lessons, as it were. And so I've been having Worlds as my big target, and now I'm into a full couple months of racing, starting with London 3-day this weekend. So I'm quite relieved to be just back doing what I know how to do.
It was the most successful, wasn't it? Equally the most successful World Track Cycling Championships that this country's ever had, and spearheaded by you as well. Were you at 100%? Because I'd imagine an accident like you'd had just a couple of months before, how could you have recovered so quickly? I mean, to win the gold medal, for crying out loud, is enough. But how did you feel, and how is it now?
Yeah, so the event that we're world champions in, it's something called the Team Pursuit. So it's a 4-rider event, and I'm part of the best team in the world. So it's, I think something that I love about track cycling is that you have to be strong enough, of course, but there's also the technical excellence, the tactical, and how much you can affect your own luck. And that certainly really stands out in the Madison. That's the other event that I medaled in. And I knew arriving... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say there, you talked about being hit by a car. I presume when you're talking about being hit by a car, you were on your bike on the road at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would be far too frightened to ride a bike on a main road. I really would be, right? And it puts me off. Does it give you any residual fear? Is there anything that, you're waiting for it to happen to you again?
It did at the time, to be honest. And the fact of it is that I'm riding my bike 3 hours most days, completely problem free. And I really don't want to I would never want to spread any kind of message like there's something that should put somebody off getting out on a bike. Like my whole family rides. I think about my mum quite often comes into my head whenever I feel a bit I guess unhappy with the structure of a road, to think that this is design danger. But I think a nation that's so passionate about cycling needs to be a nation that's passionate about cycling infrastructure and cycling education. So I think that's what Great Britain is, and a lot of the campaigning that the British Cycling do is about making it more accessible for everybody, not to do what we as a Great Britain Cycling team do as professionals, but to ride to school, to ride to work, to have an alternative to being the person that's stressed out in a metal box, to experience the freedom of getting there on your bike.
So the advice is to Eamonn Holmes, get your rally chopper out and get back out on the road, I think is going to be the answer for Eamonn. It's going to be a terrific 3 days. We're really looking forward to it. Yeah. I know it's at the velodrome there at Stratford, where we saw the Olympics back from 2012. And we look forward to seeing you there, Katie. Thanks so much for your time. It's great to see you. And many congratulations on another world title as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
She's nothing, knowing you and your Spurs connection, she's nothing to Steve Archibald, is she?
No, unfortunately not, no.
You don't know that?
No, I don't imagine. You know what? I think I would know that. But you're the second person to mention that to me today.
Yeah.
Steve Archibald, Katie Archibald, two of the best Archibald there's ever been.
Two legends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other one was Archibald Leach, who then became Cary Grant. So there's your three Archibalds.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. But he never rode a bike, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway.
Very good, very good.
Very impressive. Thank you. Do stay with us. We're going to be going through the papers next with Scarlett Maguire and Norman Baker.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. Well, drinkers have been warned about a drop in the quality of French wines after poor weather conditions hit this year's grape harvest. Winemakers across France will make 240 million fewer bottles of wine this year, the country's farming ministry said on Tuesday. So should we think of switching from French to English? I'm joined now by sommelier and founder of Inflorescence Wines, Jacinta Madison Williams. Hello, Jacinta.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. First of all, let's just think about the poor French.
We should.
Has this been a fairly universal weather catastrophe for France?
It has. Kind of across the board, we're about 22% down on last year's crops, which is quite significant. I think it's like one of the 4 years over the last century that have been this low. So,
and it's affected both quality and quantity?
I would say more so quantity. There's always ways of counteracting quality. It depends if people are desperate to make wine. They can obviously push out more watered down grapes. There's been a lot of rain, if you hadn't noticed. Not only in France, we felt it here too. But lots of frost, supercell hailstorms have completely wiped out some crops. So in some cases, there's nothing to make. In other cases, it's just really watered down grapes, and you want to pick earlier to make sure you're avoiding all those rains. But I would say more so it's quantity. But saying that, France is still the biggest producer of wine in the world. It might be taken over by Spain this year, but as a consumer, don't panic. We're not going to run out of wine. And we obviously have lots of lovely wine growing here now in England. So whether we do make a little jump for a bit to English wine, but there's definitely still lots out there.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
papers now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are indeed.
With Norman Baker and Scarlett Maguire. Good to see you both this morning. Norman, should we start with scenes outside prisons of jubilation yesterday? One prisoner just been released saying, "Big up, Keir."
Well, I can't imagine that Keir Starmer was particularly pleased by that endorsement from a released prisoner.
This amazing picture in front of the Express of a criminal with his cars behind him, and there's a Mercedes M-Class. There is
a Bentley.
Is that a Rolls Royce?
That's a Bentley worth about 150 grand.
In front here. So how on earth? You know, a very fortuitous life that you can buy cars like that and end up in prison.
Well, I bet you they're hired for the day to welcome the prisoner back, right? That this won't be people who own...
They might have been hired by Daily Express, for all we know. I mean, who knows?
Well, I was wondering exactly this, Norman.
But no, I mean, look, the situation here is embarrassing to the government because they've inherited this, to be fair to them. They've inherited a situation where the prisons have been completely overcrowded. Nothing's been done about it. And all Labour's done is actually enact a policy the Tories themselves are going to do, which was to release people early. The question I think we need to ask, the big question, is why is it the prison population has more than doubled in the last 30 years? Are we twice as unlawful as we were then? I don't think so. There are people in prison who shouldn't be there. There are people with mental health conditions in there. There are people who haven't paid their television licences. There are people who should be dealt with in different ways. And that should be what we're addressing.
Scarlett, what do you make of it?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I completely agree. And actually, Shabana Mahmood, who is the Secretary of State for Justice, is doing a review into prisons because of that, and particularly, actually, women in prison who just shouldn't be there, and then come out and there are real problems, and often they have children, and it's often for things like not paying their TV licence because they don't have any money, rather than actually going out to do criminal things. But I thought when it was John Timpson, isn't it, who's was made a Lord and made Minister for Prisons, and he hired, I mean, he's in charge of a key of Timpson's, and they hire ex-prisoners, and he's really, really good on it. And because what we should be doing is, yes, of course, prison is about punishing, but frankly, being locked up is punishing. You now need to turn people's lives around.
You do.
And Michael Gove was when he was prisons, was the last person to try and do it, and after that they just say let's put more people away, and it doesn't do any good.
It doesn't, and actually there's not enough prison officers. They're under tremendous stress. Prisons are locked up 23 hours a day, and they come out unreformed. You want prison to reform people so they actually feel part of society when they come out and behave properly, and they don't.
Exactly that's what happens in Holland.
Yeah.
Is actually they're closing prisons in Holland because fewer people are going to jail, because you don't have the revolving door of somebody coming out and then they're back in 6 months. I mean, that it doesn't do any... It's not about being soft and sort of liberal. It's actually about what's best for society.
Yeah, and there's no proper probation service or insufficient funds in this country, so people come out of prison and they can be homeless and they can have no money, and the first thing they do is commit an offence to get something to eat, and they get put back inside prison. I mean, it's nonsensical. It's Victorian.
Do you agree with what Norman and Scarlett are saying or not? Let us know. Let us have your views on this. I sort of look at prisons and I think, the fact that a prison exists, that is enough to put me off from doing any harm, doing any wrong.
That's deterrent, isn't it? You'd hope it would be anyway.
Yeah, you think it would be, but listening to Norman and Scarlett, they're basically saying, well, there's no point. You go in it, you'll not be reformed, it'll not do you any good overall. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Scarlett, should we take a look at the Telegraph? And this is Trump's campaign taking legal action over the Labour Party's support for Kamala Harris.
I know. This is an amazing story. So, as long as I can remember, people from Britain have been going over to support... I mean, the sort of people I know, to support Democratic campaigns. I think, I mean, under Obama, there were thousands of people. These aren't necessarily Labour Party people, but lots and lots of people. And suddenly, Trump minds, and you think, So it was all right, Nigel Farage going and campaigning for you, but it's not all right people going over for Kamala.
Well, it's very interesting because we've got Nigel Farage just after 8 o'clock this morning, and as far as I know, he's supporting Trump in slagging off these people who are coming to support. But a lot of it, would I be right in saying, is, you know, people who politically or in the system like you guys, you know, have an interest in it one way or the other. It's an educational thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, they take time off work and they pay for themselves. And maybe, I mean, I assume that the Democrats find them places to live, or people give them rooms and put them up and things like that. But honestly, I mean, and I'm sure that there's lots of Tories who go out for Trump, and possibly not so much for Trump, but certainly for Bush.
Yeah.
And I just find it completely weird, and it's just Trump throwing another bloody tantrum, frankly.
Norman?
Well, I agree with that, absolutely. I mean, people are always going to help their parties in America. They learn from it, they have a nice time, they don't get paid for it, which therefore is no offence committed. And actually, sometimes the Democrats and Republicans send people over here to help the Tories and Labour.
It's a whole experience, I suppose, with that. Norman, let's talk about the pub situation, because this is in the Mirror, page 8 in the Mirror today. The thing is, we talk about this business, about the pressure that pubs are under. No one seems to listen. No one seems to take this seriously, and they are closing at a heck of a rate. And it's not that I'm advocating drink or alcohol here, whatever. I'm advocating community and people gathering together, and the fact, I mean, I'm not a drinker, but I would use a pub.
Yes.
You know, I would be there, can see the value of all of that and how it holds a village or a town together.
I think the Mirror story, or the complaints that have come through, which are reported in the Mirror, actually are the wrong target, because they're talking about the amount of tax on various spirits. And the last government, quite correctly in my view, sorted out the tax arrangement so that it's related to the amount of alcohol in a drink, which it wasn't before. So that's one change. And it meant beer went down, actually, in terms of cost, where spirits went up. No, the issue with pubs, I think, and I entirely agree with you, Eamonn, about the value of pubs, is twofold. One is the issue of business rates, because the business rates that apply to pubs are often quite extraordinary and very high, and that's what pushes pubs often out of business, the business rates. The other thing is, I'm a great believer in minimum unit pricing for alcohol, which is coming in Scotland. And I looked at it when I was a minister, actually, in the Home Office, and Theresa May and I wanted to do it, and David Cameron vetoed it, actually. But if you have minimum unit pricing, what that does is it makes the cheap lager and the nasty vodka in supermarkets more expensive when the kids go and buy and sit in the recreation grounds getting drunk. And it puts them into pubs, which is a controlled environment where they can be looked after and under supervision. And actually, one of the things you can do is to try and get people to drink in pubs rather than on the street. So minimum unit pricing does that.
Yeah. I passed one in my high street yesterday, and it was closed, and it boarded up. And I thought, how did that happen, and where did that come from? But, you know, it's gone.
Oh, it's a shame.
And what way would it return?
But the local, I mean, we have a local pub in Tufnell Park, North London, where I live, and actually it is all, I mean, it's very large, but it is always full. But because it works, I mean, and because it's a virtuous circle. Once you know that lots of people are going in, lots more people go in, and it does good food, and it does, you know, lots of different alcohol, and it is incredibly friendly.
OK, let's now not be friendly. And this story in the Times reporting that cabbies are outraged at a test to prove they can speak English. Now, I want to say something about this. The amount of people I have to deal with during a week who do not speak English, whether it's on phone calls or turning up somewhere or in terms of healthcare or whatever, it is frustrating beyond belief. And you say to yourself, why? I just don't understand. I've nothing against the people, but a basic requirement is that you should be able to speak English fluently. and so many of them can't. I know you're giving me that look.
No, I agree. No, I'm about to agree, but I'm letting Norman speak first.
Well, thank you very much. Now, the issue here is with this particular council in Lincolnshire, South Kesteven District Council, and most councils will have a test for taxi drivers who want to become taxi drivers to speak English. And I'm not objecting to that, but what South Kesteven District Council is doing is making all existing taxi drivers take a test at £46.50, even if they were born and raised in this country. So Barry Drake, who's 70, for example, who's driven a cab for 17 years, is being asked to take the test to find out whether he speaks English or not.
Well, that is a bit silly, isn't it? Yeah. If you are a native English speaker.
But could you have had somebody who wasn't born here driving for 17 years and their English is still very poor?
Well, you wouldn't think so, would you?
I wouldn't think so, no. I mean, in any case, because you have to, the establishment of a test is not new, and that's been around for quite some time, and most councils, I think, have that test. So
and
someone would have been
need cab drivers to speak English.
Of course we need cab drivers to speak English.
It's really important.
Yeah.
But actually, more important is we need social cohesion, we need integration, and that begins with speaking English, and it's really important.
Yeah. Thanks, Scarlett. Thank you, Norman. Thank you very much indeed. And Nigel Farage up next.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Foggy start for some of us, particularly in the southeast, but the fog will be replaced by sunny spells as we go through the day. Odd shower possible, those showers already affecting the south of England. And the fog, extensive across Lincolnshire, East Anglia and the southeast, will tend to lift by about 10 or 11 a.m. to sunny spells. And it's a fine day for many places, sunny spells. And for much of the country, it's dry, but we do have those showers moving north across the southern half of the UK. 16 or 17 Celsius in the sunshine in the south, 14 or 15 further north, turning increasingly cloudy across northern and western Scotland and Northern Ireland as the day progresses. A few light showers in the far northwest, the breeze picking up as well. But it's a largely fair end to the day across Scotland, even if increasingly cloudy. Likewise for Northern Ireland, the cloud thickening, 13 Celsius as the sun goes down. Best of any late clear spells will be across England and Wales, particularly towards the south, 14 or 15 Celsius. But with the breeze picking up across the UK, well, actually temperatures aren't going to drop as far overnight. We're not going to see that fog redevelop across eastern and southeastern parts of the UK. But it's a clear night for the south and southeast, whilst it's increasingly cloudy for the far west and for many northern parts, with the rain slowly edging into the far northwest of Scotland. As I said, it's not quite as cool first thing, 10 to 12 Celsius for many. And plenty of sunshine through the Midlands, eastern and southern England. And we keep those sunny skies well into the afternoon in the far east of England. But further west, the cloud is thickening all the while. And this slow-moving band of rain is starting to edge by the afternoon into western parts of Northern Ireland, the far northwest of Scotland. It's particularly breezy in the far north. That's going to make it feel cool, much warmer towards the southeast in the sunny spells.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Powys, the A470 remains closed each way between Glantoymin and Carno for an investigation, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth, and some buses running on to Aberystwyth. Now in Cambridgeshire on the A14, the inside lanes closed westbound just before junction 24A at Boxworth, where someone's broken down. Delays towards there from junction 25 at Bar Hill. On the M25 in Hertfordshire, the outside lanes closed anti-clockwise half a mile before junction 19 at Watford after an accident, with queues from junction 21 for the M1. In London, the A312 Church Road in Northolt is partly blocked by an accident off the A40 at the Target roundabout, causing queues. On the M2 in Kent, the westbound exit at junction 2, the Strood and Rochester turns closed for emergency repairs, and there are delays of up to 40 minutes with some cancelled trains between Rochester and Rainham because of an incident.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway, and you really could be next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan and I won £30,000. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And if I can win, anyone can win.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries
here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martyn Doney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Chris Kaba's violent past is finally revealed.
It can now be reported that Kaba was a member of the notorious 6-7 gang that wreaked havoc on our capital.
The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has come under pressure to block misconduct charges against the firearms officer Martyn Blake after he was found not guilty of Kaba's murder.
With just days until the US election, Donald Trump lashes out at the UK Labour Party, accusing them of interfering with Kamala Harris's campaign. We're going to be speaking to Nigel Farage in just a moment.
A new review of water companies promises the biggest shake-up in history, but with bills set to soar by more than £100, is the government too slow to act?
A GB News exclusive reveals civil servants blocked secret plans for a Rwanda-style deportation deal with Uganda over human rights concerns.
The racing legend Michael Schumacher's daughter has come under attack, believe it or not, for taking her husband's surname. Now, shortly we are going to debate whether wives should do that, should take their husband's names or not.
And in the sport, out of 36 teams in the competition, Aston Villa are top of the Champions League after beating Bologna 2-0 last night, as Arsenal just beat Shakhtar Donetsk. It's Manchester City, Liverpool and Celtic's turn tonight, and we have the ex-Manchester United star who is now a professional tennis player.
A foggy start for many of us this morning, but brighter skies are on their way, at least for a short period. Full forecast coming up soon.
At the time, 1 minute past 8, come 2 minutes past 8, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Now, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, is under pressure to intervene as the police officer who shot Chris Kaba faces the sack. That's despite being cleared by a jury for his murder.
Now, the lifting of restrictions, reporting restrictions, means it can now be revealed that Kaba was a key figure in one of London's most dangerous gangs. He was accused of being involved in 2 shootings. These were just days before the police actually shot him in September 2022.
Well, the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, has admitted that the system is broken and reform is needed.
No police officer is above the law, but we have been clear that the system holding police to account is broken. The more we crush the spirit of good officers, the less they can fight crime.
Well, joining us live now from Westminster is GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley. Very good morning to you, Olivia. And we just heard from Sir Mark Rowley there saying that the system holding police officers to account is broken.
Well, absolutely. Very bold words there from Sir Mark Rowley. He's calling for a sweeping change to the law which would exempt police officers like Martyn Blake, hero police officers, he calls them, who shoot someone in circumstances similar to Martyn Blake and Chris Kaba. He is calling on them not to face prosecution, a sort of wholesale change to the law. Meanwhile, there is a row brewing which the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, is at the centre of. of the IOPC, the Independent Office for Police Conduct, is still investigating Sir Martyn Blake. So even though a jury took just 3 hours yesterday to acquit Martyn Blake, the IOPC is now looking at misconduct hearing, which could still end up with the experienced firearms officer facing the sack. Now, Robert Jenrick, the Tory candidate who is spending a lot of time on the airwaves at the moment trying to get his message out, is saying that Yvette Cooper is ultimately in charge of the IOPC and that she should stop this nonsense and end those proceedings. That call is going down well with other firearms officers in the Met Police, where there's a lot of simmering resentment over the treatment of Martyn Blake. Lots of these officers feel like they are not supported by both higher-ups in the police and also by politicians, so ultimately by the Home Secretary. They want to see the sort of measures that that Mark Rowley is talking about, whereby police officers would be exempt. And they also want to see Martyn Blake reinstated in his job and for his ordeal to be over. It'll be really interesting to see where Yvette Cooper falls on this. It looks as though she is going to change the law, shake things up, but she wouldn't go as far as Mark Rowley is asking her to do. And she is only talking about making changes to the law at the beginning of next year. Mark Rowley, Robert Jenrick too, want changes far, far more urgently, and of course want those changes to be reflected in the treatment of Martyn Blake himself.
Olivia, thank you very much indeed. Just breaking off from you, Olivia, because we've got Nigel Farage ready to talk about Donald Trump's outburst about, I suppose, Nigel, this is Labour reinforcing the Democratic ranks in terms of researchers and helpers and things like that. What would your problem be with this, Nigel?
Well, there is a Federal Electoral Commission. They have perfectly clear rules that whilst people from overseas can come, take part in campaigns, make statements, appear on media, all things, incidentally, that I've done over the years, what they can't do is do it if they're being funded. Now, the important thing about the LinkedIn advert that went out to Labour employees and supporters is no mention was made that you'd have to pay your own airfare. No mention was paid that, you'd have to take time off work and not have your salary paid. And of course, on top of that, they were told free accommodation would be provided. If you take that at face value, it is a very clear breach of American electoral law. And that is what the Trump campaign are complaining about. And remember, of course, that they themselves have been accused by the Democrats endlessly of being backed by Russia, something that turned out to be totally false. So I do think, on the way that advert was worded, that it's a clear breach.
But if people are going off their own steam, like you have done for Trump several times in the past, you've spoken at his rallies, haven't you, after his assassination attempts earlier this year? You were there by his side to show your support. I mean, many people will be listening to you today, Nigel, with respect, they'd think you're a hypocrite.
No, that's a personal relationship. And when I've been and spoken, by the way, I spoke in 2016 at a major Trump rally, and I did say, now I know it would be wrong of me to tell you how you should vote, but this is what happened in Brexit. Never underestimate, the fact that actually the polls can be wrong. And I wasn't paid to do this. Here's the point. The Labour Party today are trying desperately to backtrack by saying people will be going at their own personal cost. Well, airfares to America right now are very, very expensive. There was no mention of that in the original advertisement at all.
They were to send volunteers or get people, getting some sort of experience of the whole electoral system in America, whatever, wouldn't be a problem to you.
No. If they're paying their own airfares, Eamonn, they're not paid members of the Labour Party staff. They're not getting free accommodation. Then if you ticked all of those boxes, there wouldn't be a problem at all. The point is, none of that was said in the original advert. And so the only thing you can deduce is that everything would be covered.
What do we know about the likes of former Prime Minister Liz Truss? She's been seen at high-profile Republican events this year, including the National Convention in July. Was that under her own steam? Do you know?
Well, I'm assuming the Conservative Party didn't pay her airfare. She didn't go as a representative of the Conservative Party. But there's an even bigger point here, which is it is likely if you believe the betting markets, that Trump is going to win on November the 5th. Our relationship with America, when it comes to intelligence, when it comes to defense, when it comes to commerce, is our most important relationship in the world. And for a governing Labour Party to be seen officially acting on behalf of a rival candidate to the man that's going to win is a very major political mistake.
Well, that's what Nigel is saying. Do you agree with them? Have your say today. Nigel, appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks,
so let us know what you think about this. I thought before Nigel outlined the rules there that a lot of political parties did that. They swapped, so the Labour Party would be Democratic leaning and whatever, and it would be in their interest. And I thought all of this was quite educational, and they would lend resources and things like that. I didn't realise that there were official rules against it.
Yeah, I think if there's money exchanging hands, if people are being paid for it, then that's slightly different, isn't it? No official line from the Labour Party on this, but a minister has previously said that this is all perfectly normal. What we've seen so far.
OK, Nigel says it's not. Let us know your view. Other stories coming into the newsroom on this Wednesday morning. German aeroplanes are set to operate from a base off the coast of Scotland from next year. It's part of an agreement due to be signed today by the Defence Secretary John Healey and his German counterpart. The submarine hunting planes will track Russian boats in response to the growing threat from Moscow.
Brings our UK and German militaries closer together, our industries closer together, both to strengthen our security and Europe's security, but also to boost our industries.
The government has announced the biggest review of the water sector in 35 years. Under new plans, an independent body will examine industry regulation and suggest reforms to clean up the country's waterways.
A GB News exclusive has revealed civil servants blocked a Rwanda-style deportation deal with Uganda over human rights concerns, including their track record on LGBT issues. Home Office officials were interested in striking a pact with the African nation soon after the Rwanda plan was announced, but a group of civil servants banded together to stop it.
And Barack Obama has been busy on the Democrat campaign trail, joining vice presidential candidate Tim Walz at rallies in the key swing states of Wisconsin and Michigan. The former president mocked Donald Trump's dancing on stage before calling him loony and poking fun at his campaign merchandise.
He's not complaining, he's trying to sell you stuff. Have you noticed that? Who does that? You're running for president and you're hawking merchandise.
So here at GB News, we want to know what you think, and every day we'll be running our poll of the day. So today the poll is...
Well, with the King and Queen heading to Samoa for the Commonwealth Head of Government meeting, we're asking, is the Commonwealth still relevant?
We'll be bringing you results as they come in throughout the day, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Final result, Martyn Doney will announce that from 3 o'clock on his programme. For all our latest polls, news and how to vote, you go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, let's get your weather update with Aidan McGibbon.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Foggy start for some of us, particularly in the southeast, but the fog will be replaced by sunny spells as we go through the day. Odd shower possible, those showers already affecting the south of England. And the fog, extensive across Lincolnshire, East Anglia and the southeast, will tend to lift by about 10 or 11 a.m. to sunny spells. And it's a fine day for many places, sunny spells. And for much of the country, it's dry, but we do have those showers moving north across the southern half of the UK. 16 or 17 Celsius in the sunshine in the south, 14 or 15 further north, turning increasingly cloudy across northern and western Scotland and Northern Ireland as the day progresses. A few light showers in the far northwest, the breeze picking up as well. But Well, it's a largely fair end to the day across Scotland, even if increasingly cloudy. Likewise for Northern Ireland, the cloud thickening, 13 Celsius as the sun goes down. Best of any late clear spells will be across England and Wales, particularly towards the south, 14 or 15 Celsius. But with the breeze picking up across the UK, well, actually temperatures aren't going to drop as far overnight. We're not going to see that fog redevelop across eastern and southeastern parts of the UK. But it's a clear night for the south and southeast, whilst it's increasingly cloudy for the far west and for many northern parts, with the rain slowly edging into the far northwest of Scotland. As I said, it's not quite as cool first thing, 10 to 12 Celsius for many. And plenty of sunshine through the Midlands, eastern and southern England. And we keep those sunny skies well into the afternoon in the far east of England. But further west, the cloud is thickening all the while. And this slow-moving band of rain is starting to edge by the afternoon into western parts of Northern Ireland, the far northwest of Scotland. It's particularly breezy in the far north. That's going to make it feel cool, much warmer towards the southeast in the sunny spells.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
And now that very nice time of the day when it's time for the Great British Giveaway.
Yep, got until Friday to get your entries in. So you need to get a wiggle on. Here's how.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway. And you really could be next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan and I won £30,000. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And if I can win, anyone can win.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We are now delighted to be joined by comedian and my beautiful friend, Francine Lewis, who's here to share with us her upcoming book, The Last Laugh, and an exciting competition in collaboration with none other than that mean Simon Cowell. Francine,
He's not so mean anymore.
Oh, is he not?
He's not. And do you know what?
Having a child, is it maybe?
Definitely. It's really weird because I really liked Simon. He was nasty. I just found that, I don't know, quite sexy. Now he's way too nice. Way too nice.
That's what they say, isn't it? You get all the nice guys say, I never get any luck with women. And they always say I'm too nice.
Do you know what? The truth is, I've always thought Simon was lovely. He's such a nice guy. Like, when I was doing Britain's Got Talent, I was very, very excited, you know, to meet Simon again because it was the second time I'd actually met him. And I always thought he was such a charming, lovely man.
Of course, you are more recently well known for BGT and your impressions and whatnot.
Do you know what? I do watch a lot of reality TV, a lot of that sort of stuff.
What do you watch?
I love Towie. Whenever it's Love Island's on. Seriously, honeys, 100% definitely. You got to watch Essie. It's all about Towie. Love it, seriously. So I'm always doing, you know, whatever the new reality shows are.
The favourite is Katie Price, and we've got a video. I think we've got a selfie video of us doing.
Have we?
Yeah, we have. From
I'm showing
years ago.
Tatiana to Katie Price, which she does amazingly. Come on, Tatiana, let's...
No, I don't.
Tatiana!
Katie, there's a mixture between Katie Price and Tatiana.
What do you think? I love when people take me off. It shows what a big star I am.
It's the lick of the lips.
The People's Channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mr. Paul's back in the studio, just going to bring us up to date sports-wise. What's caught your attention?
A few bits and pieces. Last night, Arsenal beat Shakhtar Donetsk.
Yeah.
1-0, not terribly convincing. Own goal, but Mikel Arteta not terribly happy with the way things finished. Says they could do better. Says they were a little bit tired. I think we can hear from Mikel.
We should have converted them and put the game to bed with the amount of dominance and territory that we had. The second half very different. We looked tired. We lacked that sharpness with and without the ball to regain the ball in the right moments as well in the right areas, and with the ball giving certain balls away that allows certain transition. We had 2 big chances again, missed a big penalty, obviously.
Yeah, there we are. Did you get that? That's Captain Black there. What you had to say about the Arsenal game yesterday?
Look, he won. He won.
When's a win?
The stage of the Champions League is always as boring as heck, I think, anyway. It is. It's dull. It's only a way of making money, stretching money out for more teams
but
for a long
The
period
2
of
English
time.
teams did well, though.
They did, and Aston Villa are top out of 36 teams, so that's good. So played 3, won 3, not even conceded a goal, beat Bologna 2-0. Leipzig play Liverpool tonight, Man City against Sparta Prague, Atalanta versus Celtic tonight. How about a little nepotism that's in sport?
Which is?
Which is LeBron James, who is a basketball player, plays for the LA Lakers. He's got a son called Bronny. LeBron, and his son is called Bronny.
Oh, no.
Bronny, as in umbrella?
No, not Bronny. Bronny. Bronny, as in... Not Ronnie, Bronny, because his name is LeBron, so it's Bronny is the son.
OK.
I don't love that.
The son... Yeah, well, LeBron is 40, Bronny is 20, and they played together for the first time, actually, in the NBA, and it's the first time, I believe...
That's amazing.
...that a son and father have played in the same team in a professional sports situation.
I don't have any difficulty with that. My dad was Leonard and my brother's Leonard, and so I never had any problem with that.
Did they not call you Leonard then?
No, it was Big Leonard and Wee Leonard. Although Wee Leonard was bigger than Big Leonard.
Oh, was he? So, but he was always Wee Leonard all the way.
Yeah, because
and although he was bigger.
He was physically taller, but he was age obviously younger, so he was Wee Leonard.
Because of his age, not because of his size.
Yeah.
Glenn Hoddle always told a story when he played football with his dad when he was starting out, and he was playing in the team, and he's going, Dad, give me the ball. And he goes, Glenn, don't call me Dad, call me Del. When I'm playing football, you've got to call me Del. So he's going, Del. He loved the fact he could call his dad by his first name. So then when he said they were sitting over dinner, and he said, yeah, Del, can you pass the salt? And he went... just call me Dad. That's one of Glenn's. Also, Diego Forlan. Now, this is what I was mentioning. He is the former Manchester United player who is now playing professional tennis.
No.
I think can we see him? I think we can.
Has
see
he still
Diego.
got that hair?
I'm sure. Yeah, he looks $1 million. There he is. Look at that. He looks just the same. Uruguayan, makes his pro debut. He's age 45.
Wow.
Playing in a doubles event. Premier League winner in 2003. Look at the crowd. Look at the photographers around him. Premier League 2003, FA Cup 2004. From those good old days of Manchester United. And he's playing doubles. So Diego Forlan at 45.
I used to have a Forlan wig.
Did you?
Yeah. He scored 2 against Liverpool and I wore it on telly the next day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
Sue Johnson, the actress, she's a big Liverpool supporter, and I did it to annoy her. Put it on, but...
So now you could have the wig, and the people would not probably think you're Bjorn Borg more than Diego Forlan. But anyway, finally, you know how we celebrate when we finish a show every day?
Every day.
Every day, and I saw the LA Dodgers, this is another American sports story, who have now gone through to the World Series. Another thing, they call it the World Series. It's only Americans, but they call it the World Series.
They think it's the World.
Hey, we're the world champions.
Yeah.
You're not the world champions. But anyway, the LA Dodgers have gone through to the World Series. This is how they celebrate. See if this rings a bell. Look, there we are, the LA Dodgers celebrating in the locker room straight afterwards. Look at that. It's like after a Wednesday show, isn't it?
Woo! Is that champagne they're spitting out? Yeah.
I think
that is crazy.
That's me. There we are. You can reckon there we are. And there were the... Oh, dear.
For the benefit of our radio listeners, it's just pure anarchy, isn't it?
It is just pure anarchy in a locker room. There's beer, there's champagne, there's athletes just jumping up and down all over the place.
That's the worst thing about men. You know, just men and locker room behaviour and all that sort of thing.
I would agree with you, Eamonn.
But the weird thing they do in the States, though, is that they do interviews. If you go and interview a team, you don't wait till afterwards, you know, when they do the football and then they speak to them afterwards. They go into the locker room.
Oh, no.
Before they change.
Yeah. So there's all this angled here, there and everywhere, and that's where they go and do the interviews. It's very bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. So we'll celebrate the end of the programme like that tonight.
I think so, yeah, but not in the locker room.
OK.
If that's all right.
Yeah, OK.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Up next, find out about schools taking the government to court over VAT on fees, OK? Next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Paris, the A470 remains closed each way between Glantoimin and Carno for an investigation, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth. In Leicestershire, the A563 is closed each way at Braunston in Leicester after an accident. The M42 from Staffordshire into Warwickshire is partly blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 10 and 9 from Tamworth to Curdworth, causing queues. On the M6 in the West Midlands, the inside lane's closed southbound at junction 5 near Birmingham after an accident. It's taking an hour in queues from junction 8 for the M5. In Norfolk, the A47 is closed eastbound at Dereham, causing queues. The M25 in Hertfordshire, the outside lane's closed anti-clockwise half a mile before junction 19 at Watford after an accident, with queues from junction 21A for the M1 South. And there are delays of up to an hour to the FDS sailings between Dover and Calais. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camila Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camila Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Yeah, the subject about schools and private schools being taxed. Anne says, I can't see why, if they can put VAT on private schools, they don't put it on universities. After all, universities are businesses nowadays, and the salaries they pay the senior tutors and chancellors is massive.
Yeah, on that subject, actually, I saw this story today. This is on the Daily Telegraph this morning. Vice-Chancellors have been awarded pay rises of up to £80,000.
Which would make it what, overall?
Well, some of them are on 200, 300k, aren't they? Yeah. So the heads of British universities, on average, increases of 5% on their pay packages. Salaries have risen by 35% this year. There you go, up to 80 grand.
They're businesses.
They're businesses.
And they're getting a share of what goes on there.
What goes on, exactly.
OK. Well, a Christian private school is urging the government to offer exemptions to religious schools in its plan to tax school fees, which will come out in the budget next week.
Yeah, well, our East Midlands reporter, Will Hollis, has the story.
She tore through the house!
Christian classrooms come at a cost. At Emmanuel School in Derby, parents pay £4,000 a year. Soon it will be more. The government plans to tax private school fees. Head teacher Ben Snowden says that discriminates against religious schools.
We believe that this is denying parents the choice to send their children to an independent school that aligns with their faith.
Brits pay VAT on almost everything, a 20% tax on goods and services, except for private school fees. Ben thinks religious schools, which he says are low fee, should be exempt.
Parents who are choosing to send their children to a faith school like ours aren't choosing it because they've got lots of money and they want to spend it on their children's education. If schools like ours end up closing, then parents won't have that choice.
The Institute for Fiscal Studies estimates the Labour policy could raise £1.5 billion.
I think there wouldn't be a difference to pay an extra 20% or 15%.
I think they're very unfair on people who work hard to give the children a better start in life.
I think they should, because then it benefits the children and the parents that can't quite afford that education.
3 schools, including Emmanuel in Derby, are taking the government to court.
The faith schools claim that the policy will be oppressive and could be devastating to some in the private sector.
The campaign group Christian Concern believes the tax is illegal. Steve Bigu is head of education.
It's a courageous decision that they've made to do this. There's actually something that's occurring which could be seen as breaking the international law, human rights law. Parents should not be disrespected in their efforts to be able to have their children taught in ways that conform to their religious and philosophical viewpoints.
A Treasury spokesperson said, "We want to ensure all children have the best chance in life to succeed. Ending tax breaks on private schools will help to raise the revenue needed to fund our education priorities for next year, such as recruiting 6,500 new teachers. The tax sets in on January 1st. Will Hollis, GB News in Derby.
What do you make of it, Eamonn?
I wonder, are they not raising the bar? I'm all for raising the bar for everyone, but are they just simply lowering the bar and no one else is going to benefit from it? I'd like to know what is going to happen from the money they raise from the private schools. Where has that been? Because as we've already established, road tax doesn't go towards fixing roads, and national insurance doesn't go towards the health service or whatever. So just call a spade, you know, if this is money to equalise education. Education should be cherished. It shouldn't be a punishment. It should be a wonderful experience, no matter what level you're doing it at or whatever. And I think teachers should be applauded, honoured, honed. Just incredible job that teachers do, because they do so much more than just teach kids stuff from books. They formulate, when you think of our own lives, there will be teachers in our lives that formulate the person who you are today.
Yeah. It's a huge responsibility. It's a huge honour, isn't it? But I know that there's concern about religious schools, also concern about children with special needs, children with disabilities whose parents may have decided to send them to private schools so that they can get that one-on-one attention with smaller class sizes. They may struggle now with those fees. They may have to put their children into a state sector. They'll be asking what provisions are going to be made for those children.
Yeah.
So lots of questions still remain. And it's due to come in January.
Thank God. I wasn't the brightest spark at school or anything like that, but I had joyous 14 years when I think about it. I don't look back at any of my school life and think it was awful. Sometimes it was scary, sometimes it was difficult, but it was just the most wonderful 14 years of my life.
Yeah, I love school as well.
Yeah, they say it's, what do they say, the best years of your life?
Best years of your life, yeah.
And we'd agree with that?
Yeah, I loved school.
Yeah.
As did you.
I did, yeah. I was quite lost when at 18 I had to leave school and thought, what the heck happens next?
Yeah, I know.
And here I am.
Here you are.
Anyway, still to come, we're going to go through what's making the headlines in the papers. We've got Scarlett Maguire, Norman Baker with that. Hope you can join us right after this short break.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
The Daily Mail now, Josh, and pub landlords have to worry about more than the optics when it comes to offensive banter,
Yeah,
it
this
seems.
is a really big story and important. Pub landlords could have to become banter cops to stop themselves being sued by staff offended by comments from customers under workers' rights reform. So, Labour, when they were part of their election process, they were like, we're going to reform workers' rights, and that all sounds good on paper, but there were issues in terms of how might it affect employees and fear from employees costing them more money. One of these things that they're sort of pushing through, though, is that in the Equality Act of 2010, part of the issue was that if you were offended at work or someone said something sexist or racist, something that affected you, the employer had to take some sort of, they had three chances to kind of take action.
Yeah.
Now, the employer has to should have taken action already. So employees can sue employers. Now, this has a big impact on us because we're comics and we perform in venues. And if some of the bar staff hear a joke that they don't like, then they can sue their employer, potentially, under this legislation.
So it's not punters?
Well, also, it could be like you're at a bar and some bloke is like, oh, I like that top, or whatever. That's not good behaviour. But the point is now that employee could sue their employer.
So, because, I mean, the sort of scenario I was imagining was that a barmaid was being maybe sexually harassed or
That's
something.
what they're focusing in this article, but other articles have gone down the free speech route. Okay. And also venues and universities having lectures. We saw it at, in Edinburgh Fringe Festival and Sadowitz. He had a show cancelled not because of any punters, but because two of the 18-year-olds were working. They were upset by his
There was a
wedding.
bar in Brighton, wasn't there? There was a story we covered a few weeks ago. A bar in Brighton threw some people out because...
exactly. They had turfs on the...
turfs.
Yeah. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
For the next 16 minutes or so, we're going to be talking to Norman Baker and Scarlett Maguire. Indeed, they're going to be talking to us about their views of the stories in the papers today. And it's nice, Scarlett, to start with something that has got a lot of hope. And this is a medical story towards this awful, awful condition, Alzheimer's disease. What have you got to tell us?
Well, I mean, you say it's got a lot of hope. So there's a couple of new drugs that they say can put off the symptoms for 2 years. But NICE, which is the medicine regulation, says whether the NHS will buy it, say it's not enough. That actually you're only allowed to have it if either you're on a clinical trial or you have it privately. And the campaigners are saying, but this just isn't good enough. I mean, there is a real problem with drugs in this country, isn't there? That there's just not enough money. I mean, people go, oh, why does the NHS need more money? And then you have the drugs that could really help people. I mean, the only problem is the person who's quoted in the Telegraph is, he is a professor of medicine, but actually he's been a consultant for the drug companies. And I know that those consultants for the drug companies basically say what the drug companies want them to. So one doesn't quite know how good the drug is if it's still going through clinical trials, and possibly afterwards it might help. But let's not kid each other. I mean, Alzheimer's is the thing we all dread.
Yeah.
I mean, particularly, Eamonn, as you and I get older, we sort of think...
I'm convinced I'll get it, yeah.
don't say that.
Well, no. You are. I mean, do you ever go, Norman? Do you ever go and you think you've forgotten something?
No, that's not
just getting older.
That's not the thing. There is a difference between Alzheimer's and both my parents had dementia, and they had terrible, terrible short-term memory, and they certainly needed help. I mean, my mother ended up with both of them ended up with full-time carers in the house. But Alzheimer's actually changes your personality. Whereas the thing about dementia, in a way, your real personality comes out. So my dad would get really cross and everything like that. And my mum was really sweet. Very funny. And it sort of lowers your inhibition. It's still awful. And, she wasn't a proper grown-up. But actually, Alzheimer's really terrible.
It's the cruelest disease, isn't it?
Yeah.
Norman, what do you think of it?
Well, I mean, the thing I would just... Well, obviously, it's a terrible disease. I just worry about the impact of the pharmaceutical companies on the NHS, because they are pushing the message that drugs is the answer to everything. And, of course, drugs have their role. But so do other approaches, including, of course, diet, exercise, things like acupuncture, which definitely work. But the NHS is driven towards spending more and more money on drugs, when actually it's not always the best answer.
Norman, let's stay with you, shall we, and look at Britain's favourite summer holiday destination.
Yes, this is in the Star, so obviously it's true. And this is a suggestion that we've now replaced, as a country, we've replaced Spain as our favourite destination with Turkey. And there's a rather bad headline, Brits gobble up trips to Turkey in the Star. But it says Turkey comes first, then the Canaries, and then Spain. They separate them out. Then the Balearics, which is also Spain, and then Greece. I suppose if you add the Balearics and the Canaries and Spain together, they would still come ahead of Turkey. But anyway, that's the
if you ask
chart.
me where was the best, nicest holiday I've ever had, ever, it was in Turkey.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
The scenery, the lack of Brits that were there.
Obviously, that's going to change now.
That's going to change now.
Yeah. Because, I mean, for somebody like myself, who's on television, it's actually quite good to be anonymous at times, and that was really good.
I totally agree with that. I have to say that I don't really like the heat very much, so I like to go north, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, that sort of place.
Yeah.
Best holiday I ever had was in the Arctic Circle. In the Ice Hotel, which is fantastic.
Oh, wow.
They make
Didn't
it
you like
fresh
Alaska or something, or have I made that up?
Glasgow?
Was it Alaska?
Alaska?
Yeah.
No, I've been to Alaska. It was
Didn't you
lovely.
say you loved it?
No, there's a difference between a holiday where you want to go and you just flop down and you relax, and then the adventure-type things that Norman has. I would find that I would be drawn more to what Norman does with his holidays than other holidays, but I tend not to have enough time to then waste on me. You wasted on other members of the family and things like that.
I'm going to recommend the Ice Hotel. They make the hotel every year from blocks of ice in the river, brand new. Everything's made of ice. There was a room, a Beatle room up there, a Beatles room, where the bed was shaped like the B-side of an Apple single. There was a Sgt. Pepper drum carved out of ice. It's absolutely fantastic.
So what was your room like?
Oh, well, it was great. It was
freezing,
it didn't feel that. It was -20, didn't feel like. What we did, we slept on, there was animal skin, and then the Swedish Army sleeping bag we had. It was perfectly fine. And then during the day, it was completely dark because it was New Year, so it was light for about half an hour a day. Got dragged around the country by huskies and so on. It was absolutely fantastic holiday.
What
you get any sleep?
Realise, no one tells you about huskies that they smell of poo. There's a lot. When they're in front of you, they get so excited, they poo quite a lot.
I didn't notice that, but what I did notice was they wanted to run. They just wanted to run and run and run.
Yeah.
But actually, I did the opposite. So I was in the Arctic Circle in June, when, of course, there was no dark. No, there was no dark. It was, and you sort of suddenly thought,
creepy.
Yeah, it was creepy, and it was great. And it was Norway rather than Sweden, and it was the islands. It was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, something different.
Yeah.
The experience holiday, talking about Norman, the sort of things that he did. I went on a cowboy holiday once in a place called Durango in Colorado, and to be a cowboy, to have a horse and a hat and a rifle and lasso and whatever, it was just amazing, just incredible.
And a Bronco experience.
See, to me, I could live. I believe I was a cowboy in a different life, so that was really nice. That was a great experience. But for a relaxing holiday, Turkey, yeah. I would agree with that.
Scarlett, should we look at this fresh cronyism row? In the Daily Mail, this is about Wes Streeting's fiancé and his new plum job.
Can I say that this is another non-story? So what happens is...
Is it?
Yeah. So Joe, whatever his name is, Doney, so he runs his own communications company. He applied for the job of head of communications at the Labour Party, which is not number 10. Everybody knows he's great at communications. It's one of the reasons that actually Wes Streeting is such a good communicator, is that he's always had great advice from his media person. And some of us think that maybe, had he been in number 10, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. And I just think... So it was an open appointment. Lots of people applied, and he was probably the best. I mean, he's certainly really, really excellent and has got a CV to die for.
It's not the only Labour figure, though, with close family links, is it? I mean, Rachel Reeves' sister...
Yeah, well, she's
Ellie
an
Reeves,
MP. I mean, so they
is
both...
the party's chair. And then you've got Mr Ingham, who is married to Jess Lee, who's an advisor to Yvette Cooper. There's lots of family links here, isn't there?
Let's not forget Boris Johnson giving some of his close associates, let's put it that way, favours, including membership of the House of Lords. I mean, you know, you've got to see it as it is, and sometimes the papers... It seems to be... Look, I'm not a Labour Party supporter, but the papers are being harder on Keir Starmer and the Labour Party than they ever were on the Tories.
OK. Now, we were talking about communicating with plants or, indeed, animals earlier on, Norman, and this is in the Eye, and they're saying a deaf dog has learnt sign.
I love this story. I love this story. This is a dog whose ears have been cropped illegally, I think, was found chained in a yard, and therefore treated badly. It's been kind of rescued, it's been retrained, and it's been rehomed. And it's been, because it can't hear properly, it's been learning sign language, and it now can respond to demands to sit up and all that sort of stuff that dogs do. They've taught a good recall, it says here, using hand gestures as well as signs for sit, lie down, drop, and find it. This is the RSPCA. And the dog is responding very well, so the intelligent dog. Pause for thought, you might say.
Very good.
But actually,
very good.
it goes back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, animals really do respond. They're very, very bright.
We just have to find the right language, the right communication that they can relate to us and we can relate to them. And this proves that there is something there with sign language.
Oh, yeah. No, and they're real. I mean, anybody who's got a pet, real personality. I mean, I remember that it was my daughter's dog and she looked after it. But if I ever told it off, it would just go, oh. It was not listening to you. It's incredible.
The dog's called Polo, by the way, if people want to know.
Polar.
Oh.
Polo. Like the mint.
Like
very
the
nice.
Mint. Yeah.
Right. Scarlett, this one caught my eye this morning. This is in The Guardian. So this is the son of Singapore's first premier has been given asylum in the UK.
I know, because he says he's had to leave Singapore because it's such a... because he was suffering persecution, because it's changed from when his father started it to now that it's a dark place. And I think, I mean, obviously, people like him who are being persecuted, we need to give them asylum. I just wondered that being the son of Singapore's first premier, it didn't say how he got here. I assume he flew. And it also didn't say whether he spent any time in hotels waiting to have his asylum application processed. And I bet you he didn't. I bet you this went through quite fast. But we do have to remember when we look at Singapore and say, oh, what a wonderful place it is that actually it is quite oppressive and it's very, very difficult if you don't like living there. That it's quite punitive.
I've never been, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not sure the climate would agree with me, but also, I mean, they say the streets are immaculate. You could eat your food
it's so
off
clean.
Yeah, so clean.
Very
but
clean.
Do you get the impression you just wouldn't want to be there, or what?
No, I really liked Singapore when I went, but I was only a 5%.
Eamon's a disruptor, as we know, right? So he'd go there and he'd cause trouble and they'd go, no.
But what I would really like is the idea that there is no graffiti.
Yeah.
None
And there'd be no
whatsoever.
spitting.
Then one of my pet hates, and I can't stand litter, and
Right.
graffiti is another thing that I would just like to nail to the cross, that this is not artwork. This is not something you should stand back and admire. You should blast every bit of it off the walls, off every shutter of every shop that there is, and whatever it is. I cannot stand graffiti, nor people who say, oh, it's art. It's a way of these youngsters expressing themselves.
Well, look, Banksy, for example.
I was just about to say
Just like
Banksy.
Banksy.
I can't stand Banksy.
Well, I think
Oh,
Banksy is very good
completely
social
wrong.
commentator, but I mean, what I don't like at all, these kind of tags, which is just mess.
Yeah.
And actually, I think we should be making people instead of sending people to prison for no reason, actually come back to an early conversation, get them out there, clean the graffiti off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a story in the news last week that a new what do you call who runs the tube lines, Transport for London?
Transport for
London.
They bought a load of new trains and they're testing them out, and they'll take 2 years or so to test them out. And this brand new train arrived into the station that night to be tested the next day. It was covered in graffiti from head to foot. And that was, that's their way of putting their stamp and saying, no, these railway lines belong to us. And
But I think Norman's right. I think that cleaning graffiti would be a great thing to do for community service.
I think there's a lot of people that would agree with that. With the 1,000 prisoners or so that were released yesterday, had scenes like this.
Yeah.
Front page of the Daily Express.
They could have done that.
Humiliating pictures to the government.
could they, Norman? You see, I think I'm fascinated to hear from you, because you'll have insider knowledge and things on this, that people would say, oh, there's insurance problems with this, so you can't guarantee people's safety, there's no one to supervise them, the cost, whatever. There's always a reason for not doing
Yeah, there is. And I actually think, in terms of early release, I think that two things should have happened in early release. One is you should be made to do community service for the time they would have been in prison, so they serve the same time effectively as they would have done in prison. Secondly, if they re-offend, then the amount of time they've been given on early release should be added to the next sentence. Those two things should happen. And instead, it's not happened.
And many of them, and actually it did happen, should be tagged. I mean,
Yes.
when it's early release, it might be early release, but they shouldn't be allowed just out.
Absolutely.
And some of them should actually be tagged 24 hours a day.
Yeah. This idea of having a respect or responsibility towards your neighbourhood or society in general or other people. And I wonder, well, where did I get this? Well, maybe I got from my parents without sort of knowing it. They didn't sit us down and tell us these things, but, they acted in a certain way that you copied. But definitely from school. Definitely. And again, I don't think it was the teachers' jobs to do this, but they did do it, and they told you how to behave and what way you should act in society. And I'm thankful that message stuck with me. But why isn't it there for everyone else? And why do a lot of people...
I think a lot of teachers do. I think a lot of teachers do actually...
I think they do.
A lot of parents don't. That's the problem.
Well, parents aren't even reading to their children or playing with them, as we established earlier on, so I don't think they're telling them to take
Yes,
pride
I'm
in their
not sure
community.
that there's anything new. I think it has always been like this. There have always been parents who haven't read to their children, who haven't... And actually, can I say, something like the government's Sure Start that was started in, I think, 1998, and was then stopped, actually helped mothers to bring up children properly. And it's been shown, years and years later, that the effect is that you're less likely to go to prison. You're less likely. The effects on Sure Start were of Sure Start were fantastic, and we need to bring it back.
I just say, when I was an MP, I went to Lewis Prison, which was in my constituency, and the governor there told me that 35% of the people in the prison were illiterate.
Yeah.
And that's there's a link between that and committing crime.
But there were the facts that were released last week about a third of all pupils up to 18 in Wales are illiterate.
It's shocking.
Secondary school age.
What are they doing leaving primary school unable to read?
I absolutely, totally agree with you. I think, unable to read, unable to write, illiterate, to be classified as illiterate, and no one does anything about it. I saw in Northern Ireland last night, they're going to bring in compulsory, you're going to stay in school until you're 18. And I'm not sure that's a good thing either.
No, it isn't. What's a good thing is to teach them to read properly, to write properly, and to be able to add up. And those basics seem to be missing half the time.
Basic stuff, whatever. Guys, thanks very much indeed for your basic stuff and much, much more.
Yeah, let us know your views on any of those.
Norman and Scarlett, a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you very much indeed. have yourselves a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, let us know what you make of any of those stories that we were just discussing with Norman and Scarlett. gbnews.com/yoursay.
And now we say have a good day. What will that day be like wherever you are? Let's hope the sun's shining, giving you a bit of autumn sunshine. Here's Aidan McGivern.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Foggy start for some of us, particularly in the southeast, but the fog will be replaced by sunny spells as we go through the day. Odd shower possible, those showers already affecting the south of England. And the fog, extensive across Lincolnshire, East Anglia and the southeast, will tend to lift by about 10 or 11 a.m. to sunny spells. And it's a fine day for many places, sunny spells. And for much of the country, it's dry, but we do have those showers moving north across the southern half of the UK. 16 or 17 Celsius in the sunshine in the south, 14 or 15 further north, turning increasingly cloudy across northern and western Scotland and Northern Ireland as the day progresses. A few light showers in the far northwest, the breeze picking up as well. But well, it's a largely fair end to the day across Scotland, even if increasingly cloudy. Likewise for Northern Ireland, the cloud thickening, 13 Celsius as the sun goes down. Best of any late clear spells will be across England and Wales, particularly towards the south, 14 or 15 Celsius. But with the breeze picking up across the UK, well, actually temperatures aren't going to drop as far overnight. We're not going to see that fog redevelop across eastern and southeastern parts of the UK. But it's a clear night for the south and southeast, whilst it's increasingly cloudy for the far west and for many northern parts, with the rain slowly edging into the far northwest of Scotland. As I said, it's not quite as cool first thing, 10 to 12 Celsius for many. And plenty of sunshine through the Midlands, eastern and southern England. And we keep those sunny skies well into the afternoon in the far east of England. But further west, the cloud is thickening all the while. And this slow-moving band of rain is starting to edge by the afternoon into western parts of Northern Ireland, the far northwest of Scotland. It's particularly breezy in the far north. That's going to make it feel cool, much warmer towards the southeast in the sunny spells.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 towards Belfast, there's a lane closed on the exit at Junction 1 for the A12 West Link after an accident. There are queues as a result. In Powys, the A470 remains closed each way between Glentoymin and Carno for investigation, with buses replacing trains between Shrewsbury and McCunliffe. The M42 from Staffordshire into Warwickshire is partly blocked southbound by an accident between Junction 10 and 9 from Tamworth to Curdworth, causing delays. On the M6 in the West Midlands, the inside lane's closed southbound after an accident at Junction 5 near Birmingham. It's taking an hour and a quarter in queues from Junction 8 for the M5. In Norfolk, the A47 is closed eastbound at Dereham after an accident, causing roughly 2 miles of queues. And P&O sailings to and from Calais have been stopped because of an incident, with the FDS reporting delays of up to an hour between Dover and Calais.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win a whopping £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway. That's like having £3,000 each month for an entire year. Extra cash in your bank account that you can do whatever you like with. Make sure you don't miss out. Get your entry in now. Just one entry could make you the winner. For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232.
And join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hello there, good to see you. Chris Kaba's violent past revealed, finally.
Yes, it's been revealed he was a member of the 6-7 gang, and a bounty is placed on the head of the police officer at the centre of the case.
Now, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, is coming under pressure to block misconduct charges against the man who fired the fatal shot, Martyn Blake, after he was found not guilty of Kaba's murder.
With just days until the US election, Donald Trump lashes out at Labour, accusing them of interfering with Kamala Harris's campaign. Nigel Farage gave us his take earlier.
It is a very clear breach of American electoral law, and that is what the Trump campaign are complaining about.
A new review of water companies promises the biggest shake-up in history. The Environment Secretary, Steve Reid, joins us in a couple of minutes' time to explain more.
A GB News exclusive reveals civil servants blocked secret plans for a Rwanda-style deportation deal with Uganda over human rights concerns.
A foggy start for many of us this morning, but brighter skies are on their way, at least for a short period. Full forecast coming up soon.
Hello there, very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
This hour, we're dealing with Donald Trump, and he's accused the Labour Party of interfering in the American general election.
Yes, the presidential candidate's team has called for an investigation into Sir Keir Starmer's party and its links with the Democrats.
Thought we're going to see something there, we're not. GB News can exclusively reveal civil servants blocked a Rwanda-style deportation deal with Uganda.
Well, that's after concerns were raised over the African nation's track record on LGBT rights.
OK. Our national reporter, Charlie Peters, is in the studio. Charlie, maybe you can fill us in now with the details of this.
Sure. So Whitehall sources have told me that when the Rwanda plan was launched in April 2022, other African nations came forward and said they were willing to do the same thing. And top of the list was Uganda. Now, as I understand it, some discussions did take place between the then government and the Ugandan authorities at the embassy level. I actually phoned up the High Commission a few days ago, and they indicated that they were aware of this proposal. But as I understand it, as sources have told me, it never went any further than that because concerns were raised within the civil service, in particular in the Foreign Office, over fears about LGBT rights and human rights in Uganda. Now, this is 2022. Homosexuality has been illegal in Uganda for a long time. And last year, they actually introduced a new Anti-Homosexuality Act, which can introduce the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality. I'm not entirely sure what that actually refers to, but that's the specific language they've used in that law. Now, this comes, and the reason why we've revealed it now is because last week the Dutch government indicated that they had signed a deal and were working on a deal with the Ugandan authorities for the same thing, to deport many of the asylum seekers that arrive in the Netherlands but don't have rights to be there. A big problem, of course, across the continent. And so we are seeing this shift now that, as in this country, we are scrapping the Rwanda plan and maybe taking less of a physical deterrent to deal with this issue. Across the continent, deportation plans are being drawn up and signed with other nations.
What are the implications of this, Charlie? Because on the face of it, that seems fair enough, doesn't it? If there's these laws against homosexuality in Uganda, then it simply wouldn't be safe, would it, for people to be deported there?
Well, the Whitehall sources who brought the story to me told me that they still could have pushed through this deal with Uganda, that other options were available. They thought that Rwanda wasn't actually enough to deal with the problem. You needed a greater deterrent. But that there was a lack of political will at the time to have this fight to make it work, potentially because of what you've just raised. They didn't want to go through the back and forth, the public discussion about dealing with the anti-homosexuality agenda in Uganda. But at the same time, other critics have said that all too often asylum seekers misrepresent their sexuality in order to prevent deportation under the ECHR ruling and the cover, the legal protection you get along those grounds. And so they thought that that could have been exaggerated to prevent deportations in some cases.
OK. Charlie, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Let's go back to that Donald Trump story. And I think we were waiting on Olivia Utley, who's now turned up. And she's going to tell us, Olivia, why the big hoo-ha about this? So Trump's saying that Labour should not be involved in this, and yet I'm sure there is a history in this country over the years of British political parties working, helping, sending volunteers out to America to help in the election campaigns. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, there is a history of that, but the Donald Trump camp have argued that the Labour Party in this election have taken it too far. Now, this is really awkward for Keir Starmer, really, really difficult, because for a long time now he's been trying to toe quite a difficult line. On the one hand, he knows that if Donald Trump is elected in just a couple of weeks' time, Starmer, will have to work very closely with him over the next 5 years. But also, there are quite a lot of people within the Labour Party, generally on the left of the Labour Party, who believe that Keir Starmer and the British Prime Minister in general should have nothing to do with an administration like Trump's. This has really set the cat among the pigeons, because for all of Keir Starmer's very careful wording in interviews where he doesn't go quite as far as he might like to in criticising Donald Trump, the Trump camp now are really not keen on the Labour Party at all. To make matters worse, Keir Starmer is stuck on this 28-hour flight over to Samoa. He travelled to Sydney. There are 2 fuel stops, another 10-hour flight. So he's not really capable of responding properly to what Donald Trump is alleging. And that does make things very tricky for him.
So what has the Labour Party response been on all of this, Olivia? Because as you say, it's a very tricky one, isn't it, for Keir Starmer?
Well, the Labour Party at the moment are sort of trying to buy a little bit of time here. They talk about how there is a history before of parties intervening. You're sort of trying to get together now a line from Labour MPs. But as I say, things are made much trickier by the fact that Keir Starmer and his whole entourage are on that plane. I think that now, if Donald Trump is elected in just a few weeks' time, that relationship between him and Keir Starmer could be very, very strained indeed. I think probably Keir Starmer is not happy with the situation at all, because it's unlikely that it was Keir Starmer's decision to sort of intervene in any way. And so it'll be other people within the party who are acting sort of on his behalf or on the behalf of the Labour Party. And this isn't the first time in quite a short tenure so far that Keir Starmer has been embroiled in inter-Labour Party rows. Of course, we had that row with Sue Gray. There was resentment between Sue Gray and some of the other special advisors who felt that she was being paid too much, £170,000 more, just £3,000 more than the Prime Minister. Eventually, she got ousted from her role. She's been given this sort of nebulous role as leader of the network of regions or something like that. And she has now been replaced as Chief of Staff by one of her biggest rivals, Morgan McSweeney. There is an increasing feeling within Westminster that the very, very tight ship that Keir Starmer managed to sail through his long years as leader of the opposition, and then very much during the election campaign, seems to have all fallen apart since he became party leader.
OK, Olivia Utley there for us in Westminster. Thank you very much indeed. Now, it's time for the Great British Giveaway now, and the clock is ticking to get your entry in. You've only got until Friday.
Friday, yeah, that's it. And lines will close after that. So for your chance to win £36,000 and be in the money, here's what you have to do.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway, and you really could be next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan, and I won £30,000. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And if I can win, anyone can win.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2.
in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
We shouldn't have to do this, Rebecca. These men should have been compensated long ago.
They shouldn't have to fight for recognition. And this is what's happened over the last 72 years. So all the way through from the test through to the present day, they've known that something happened to them. They've seen what they've been through, their medical conditions, the fact that many of these servicemen died well before their time. And they were ignored in a way that other countries didn't ignore their similar testing veterans. So other nuclear powers across the world, the US, for example, compensated and recognised their nuclear testing veterans many, many years ago. Yet, unfortunately, successive governments in the UK failed to do that. After the long campaign for medallic recognition, finally, these servicemen received medallic recognition, but it came in a jiffy bag in the post, which is not the way to honour the service that these men gave to our country. There needs to be an understanding and an uncovering of the truth of what they actually went through. They've been fighting for many years for access to their medical records, for example, urine and blood tests that they know were taken during their service. But when many of these families have tried to access their records, these test results seem to be missing, and there's no explanation as to why this has happened.
What basis does the Ministry of Defence say it's not our responsibility?
Well, we know from other studies across the world and subsequent studies, it showed, staggeringly that these men were exposed to the same amount of radiation as clean-up workers at Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Government Minister and Secretary of State for the Environment. We're delighted to welcome Steve Reid, MP, live from Westminster.
Good morning to you, Mr. Reid. So you are launching the Independent Water Commission today, the largest review of the sector since privatisation, apparently. I mean, people will be pleased to see that the water companies are being held to account, but they will say, I'm sure they'll be thinking this watching you this morning, that this is far too slow. This is a national scandal. They don't want to hear about reviews that are set to come out in 2025. They want to see a ban on bonuses. They want to see criminal charges against water executives. They want water that is clean to drink and clean to swim in. This is far too slow from this government.
I'm delighted you say that, because even as we speak, I've got a piece of legislation going through Parliament right behind me that will ban the payment of multi-million-pound bonuses to water bosses when they don't deserve it, and it will make them face criminal charges if they're overseeing wrongdoing. So that's action we're already doing, so I think the public will be pleased to hear that. But we also need a much bigger reform of the water sector, not just to deal with the record levels of pollution that we see in our rivers, lakes and seas right now. It so infuriates the public, and quite rightly so, but also to ensure that we can speed up investment and deliver the new water infrastructure we need, for instance, to allow housing development to go ahead at scale, because all of those homes will need access to clean drinking water and sewerage. But as things stand, if we don't improve water infrastructure, then by the mid-2030s, this country will start to run out of drinking water as demand starts to outstrip supply. I cannot allow that to go forwards. This is the inheritance we got from the Conservative government. The commission that I'm announcing today, led by Sir John John Cunliffe, former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, huge experience on investment and regulation, will be conducting a root and branch review of the entire sector, including regulation, so we can ensure it works in the future for customers and the environment in the way that it's failed to do in the past.
So, Secretary of State, is the sector aware that it is drinking at the Last Chance Saloon?
Well, absolutely. I don't think anyone is in any doubt at all that this sector needs comprehensive reform, including people in the sector themselves. They cannot fail to notice the rage that they get from their own customers being asked to pay rising bills while the quality of the water that we see all around us in our rivers, lakes and seas is so often contaminated and polluted. Nobody can accept that. This has been a failure of regulation and governance going back at least 14 years. I'm going to draw a line in the sand with this review. I'm already taking action, as I said, with a legislation going through Parliament now to ban unfair multi-million-pound bonuses and make water bosses face criminal charges if they are breaking the law repeatedly. But we need this much bigger reset to get that water sector working for the public and for all of our futures.
Mr. Reid, are you the right man for this job? Because the freebie scandal continues, doesn't it? With revelations that you took £1,786 worth of football tickets from bosses that have been linked to Northumbrian Water, which, in your role as Environment Secretary, you will be aware is one of the 3 companies that the water regulator, Ofwat, says is not fit for purpose. In fact, one of the worst offenders, 30 sewage spills over the course of 2023, the same year in which you declared almost £2,000 worth in football tickets from this company, the parent company of Northumbrian Water. How can the public trust you to hold water companies to account if you're being wined and dined by them?
Those tickets were from a telecoms company, not a water company, so your facts, I'm afraid, are
wrong.
And
the parent company is CK Hutchinson Holdings.
I would hardly be taking the toughest action against water company and water company bosses of any Secretary of State in history if I had been in any way influenced by a telecom company offering me a pair of football tickets. I wasn't, and you can judge me by what I'm doing in Parliament and the reform I'm leading in the water sector. You've not seen that from any previous Environment Secretary ever.
You have accepted almost £2,000 worth of tickets from Hutchinson 3G UK Limited, whose parent company is CK Hutchinson Holdings. They are also the parent company of Northumbrian Water. So you are not researching who you're accepting freebies from, clearly.
Like I said, it's a telecoms company, 3, and so your facts there, I'm afraid, are wrong, and so is your inference.
But they are
because I wouldn't be taking the toughest action against water bosses' bonuses or water bosses breaking the law of any Secretary of State ever if I had been in any way influenced. The fact that these tickets came from a telecoms company, not from a water company, I'm afraid means that your point is just bogus.
Look, there will be inference from the public that you will go soft on water companies because you are accepting freebies from companies who are the parent companies of one of the worst offenders in this country, Northumbrian Water. We'll have to do that there because I'm almost out of time with you.
You keep saying the same thing again and again, and I'll give you the same answer. It was a telecoms company, and I'm taking the toughest action of any Secretary of State against the water companies that any of us have ever seen, and I've launched a commission today to completely reset the sector. So I say it again, your facts and your inference are wrong. I'm going to get on and I'm going to clean up our rivers, lakes and seas from pollution. I'm going to reset this sector so it works for the customers and for the environment in a way that it has not done going back decades. And I will do that without fear or favour from anyone.
Can I ask you about Donald Trump, who has filed a Federal Election Commission complaint against the UK's Labour Party? He's accusing the Labour Party of blatant foreign interference in the US election, this in aid of the Harris campaign. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it's certainly not unusual for Mr. Trump to use colourful language in this election campaign, but frankly, it's up to private individuals to choose what they do with their own free time and their own money. It's not unusual for supporters of a political party in one country to go and campaign for a sister party in another country. It happens always round. I've seen Americans here campaigning in our election for all parties as well. That is all this story is about. The Labour Party itself has nothing to do with organising people to go and campaign for the Democrats. It is individuals choosing to do what they want with their own free time, as is their right.
Secretary of State, thank you very much for your time today. Message received and understood. Incidentally, who do you support, Chelsea or Palace?
Palace, of course.
Well, do you know what? I think that's the right answer. I'll give you that one. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
We could do with a few more wins, though. Yeah, thank you.
Indeed. OK, so that's what the Environment Secretary thinks. What do you think? At GB News, we love to hear what you do think about things. Now, every day we'll be running our poll of the day.
Yes, and today, with the King and Queen arriving in Samoa for the Commonwealth Head of Government meeting, today we're asking, is the Commonwealth still relevant? Well, the live results are on the screen now. Currently, 68% of you say yes, 30% of you say no, and 2% don't know. Well, the final result will be announced later on Martyn Doney's show. For all the latest polls, news, and how to vote, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
Good. Thank you very much indeed for that. The King and Queen, Samoa, wherever Samoa is. It's in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific Ocean. Anyway, we're going there. It's a 6-day tour of the country, and they touched down to continue this royal tour. Their Majesties were formally welcomed to the island and will later attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting.
Well, GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker was there.
This is a very significant moment for the King. The first time him and Her Majesty the Queen have officially visited Samoa together. They touched down just a few moments ago on a Royal Australian Air Force jet from Sydney following that 6-day visit. And it is a very important visit here to the South Pacific island, a 2-day visit. The first day will be the state visit, where it will be all about the bilateral relationship between the United Kingdom and Samoa. But perhaps more importantly, or more significant for His Majesty the King, is the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting being held this week. It is the first time he has presided over the conference as its head. He deputised on behalf of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, back in Rwanda in 2022, but this is the first time as his head. Climate change is expected to be a huge theme here, of course, an issue which really does affect this South Pacific island nation of Samoa, with rising sea levels, the temperature changes in the oceans creating more intense storms. And it's those kind of issues which the King is going to be hearing about, and how Samoan people are being resilient to those issues and how they are adapting with the changing climate. But this trip is not going to be without controversy, and that is because we have the issue of reparations. Now, we do expect that some Caribbean nations who are here at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting want to bring up the issue of reparations. The British government paying back certain nations for the historical role Britain had in the slave trade. Now, the Prime Minister's official spokesperson said earlier this week that it is not on the Prime Minister's agenda talking about reparations. It is also, they also say that the Prime Minister will not officially or formally apologise for Britain's role in the historic slave trade, but does say that they are open to discussions with different people, perhaps on the issue, if others bring it up. And of course, the King takes advice from the government, so I would suspect it's incredibly unlikely that he will be apologising for historical slavery. But is he going to be confronted while he is here in Samoa? We'll have to wait and see.
I don't know about you, but I sort of feel the heat coming through that screen there.
The humidity.
Yeah.
Cameron Walker texted me saying the humidity is really bad. His hair looks bad. It's not true. He looks great.
And so do you. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Foggy start for some of us, particularly in the southeast, but the fog will be replaced by sunny spells as we go through the day. Odd shower possible, those showers already affecting the south of England. And the fog, extensive across Lincolnshire, East Anglia and the southeast, will tend to lift by about 10 or 11 a.m. to sunny spells. And it's a fine day for many places, sunny spells. And for much of the country, it's dry, but we do have those showers moving north across the southern half of the UK. 16 or 17 Celsius in the sunshine in the south, 14 or 15 further north, turning increasingly cloudy across northern and western Scotland and Northern Ireland as the day progresses. A few light showers in the far northwest, the breeze picking up as well. But well, it's a largely fair end to the day across Scotland, even if increasingly cloudy. Likewise for Northern Ireland, the cloud thickening, 13 Celsius as the sun goes down. Best of any late clear spells will be across England and Wales, particularly towards the south, 14 or 15 Celsius. But with the breeze picking up across the UK, well, actually temperatures aren't going to drop as far overnight. We're not going to see that fog redevelop across eastern and southeastern parts of the UK. But it's a clear night for the south and southeast, whilst it's increasingly cloudy for the far west and for many northern parts, with the rain slowly edging into the